matchup. Jinair Green Wing. SK Telecom T1. MVP. BBQ Oliver. 2017 League of Legends Champions Korea Spring Split.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 2, week 1 of LCK. I'm Doa. That's Monte Cristo. Okay, wait a second.
You're ripping the Band-Aid off
we gotta go back on that one. I'm Achilles. That is Papa Smithy. Welcome to the Seoul East Stadium, where we will be bringing you all of the action. Gonna kick things off with a bang. New SK Telecom T1 roster debuting right here, right now.
Yeah, kicking it off with the world champions with some changes, as you mentioned, and the broadcast as well. Of course, if you've been watching Twitter, you'd know that Monte Cristo and Doa won't be covering LCK this season. Chaos and I will be anchoring it, but we will be joined by a new face in a couple of weeks.
A mysterious caster. A new challenger approaches, but we can't say who quite yet, but you guys should be able to find out very soon, so we're excited for that announcement in the coming days. But for now, it is time for some LCK. SK Telecom T1 versus the Jinair Green Wings to start things off, and then MVP versus PVQ Olivers, our eclectically named team, I suppose, here in LCK for Season 7. So should be some pretty interesting matchups, but, I mean, of course, we have to look at SKT. Peanut coming off the Rocks Tigers into this team. Hooney over from Europe, then NA, now back to Korea. What can we really expect from this team?
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing, is that Hooney's making his Korean debut. That's such a weird thing to think, given that, of course, he is of Korean descent. But let's go over the overview of the tournament first. First thing to announce, of course, is that it's the same format, still double round robin, best of 3. It will just still be the same gauntlet when we reach to the playoffs, you know, starting off with the wild card, which is that best of 3 format, then best of 5 the rest of the way through.
Yeah, it will be. MVP, of course, going to be something that we'll be tracking throughout the duration of the tournament. Smeb, double MVP back-to-back last season, so we'll see if he can manage that one yet again. But just a general overview, nothing's really changed.
But the team logos, a little bit's changed there.
That's true. We do have a new Kongdu Monster Team logo. Rocks Tigers, of course, going over to a different one. Kind of reminds me of the old Gamania Bears logo, and BBQ Olivers coming in as ESC Ever. So they do have a new logo themselves. But Jinair Green Wings versus SK Telecom T1 is the first match of the day. And it's going to be a best of 3 as per usual. Had our first day yesterday at the other studio. Kick things off with KT versus the Rocks Tigers.
Yeah, we, of course, missed out on those matches. KT confidently taking down the revamped Rocks Tigers, and also Longju just couldn't get it done against Samsung. Opened up well, but couldn't close that series. Now we get into this one, though. A lot of changes on both sides, but Jinair, almost a new team. Only Kuzan in the mid lane remains from the starting roster. And SK Telecom, we'll get to them second, but they got some new faces as well.
Yeah, they definitely do. But Jinair, as you mentioned, lots of new faces on this squad. People moving around from all over the place. Ixu coming in, and the top lane, Umti, the new jungler, who will be showing us what he's got. He's had some confidence in his interviews as to how he's going to perform. He says, you know, I think I can take down a player like Ambition, but might not even have to worry about Ambition because we saw Haru in both of the games that Samsung was able to win yesterday.
Loving this ARG to show us the lineup. Umti comes straight out of solo queue, 17.5 for this game. So one of the younger players, even younger than Ghost, who's one of the new players we'll see later on today from the BBQ Olivers. But they built around Kuzan. This was the guy who was definitely the most impressive performer in what was a very disappointing summer season for Jinair. Finished 7th, one of their lowest overall finishes in recent history. Got rid of some of the older players like Trace, who's now a coach for Samsung. Still have some of the players on the sub-roster, but the starting roster, sure, we saw some of these guys in Kesper Cup. Teddy, for example, looked pretty good in Kesper Cup for Jinair, but around these two players, a lot of new players, and actually, The aforementioned making his debut, born in June of 1999, makes me feel very old that he is able to play professional League of Legends, but seems to have some confidence, even though you can't ask for tougher first opponents.
I mean, his debut here in Korea actually went and played in China because didn't have the same age restriction in Korea.
Of course, you're right.
So he did play over there, but now that he is of age, comes back over to Korea, joins up with the Jin Air Green Wings, and he's got a really tall order for his first matchup going up against Peanut on the other side of the arena. Of course, you can hear the chant, the fans screaming out in the audience. It's SK Telecom T1.
And of course the plaudits are there for this team, double world champions in a row. And you've got Peanut joining the lineup. You also have Huni, who will be starting over Prophet. Some people, including myself, speculate it might take time for Huni to adjust the SKT system, but clearly they feel a lot of confidence in him, starting him in the first game. Could, of course, change for Game 2. There is also a new mid lane sub, Sky, surprisingly, who struggled on the CJ Entis lineup, is the substitute to Faker. Have to think, though, probably won't see too much Sky this season.
Yeah, I mean, subbing out Faker, I mean, something that we have seen in the past, but Easy Hoon was a whole nother beast. Now, Sky, as you mentioned, kind of lackluster there on CJ as they did end up in relegation. But you mentioned Huni and whether or not we were going to see him or Prophet. But actually, Faker, in one of his interviews, said, you know, I wasn't sure if Huni was going to play seriously, but he's been practicing extremely hard, and it seems like he has earned that starting spot on this roster.
It is really interesting to see how this team plays. You think of Huni, you see him on your screen here, carry player. Peanut, the quintessential carry jungler, and Faker. It doesn't matter if Faker locks in Lulu or he locks in an assassin. He will play forward. He will play aggressively. It's going to be really interesting to see the speed and just the styles that we see from this roster, because we could be seeing the debut of the 2017 World Champions.
That's very, very possible, and a lot of teams have kind of alluded to that. I think it was MVP said, you know, nothing's really going to change. We're going to do our best to try to make it into the final, but SKT's probably going to win Worlds
There's
anyway.
another change as well. EDG's coach last year, Rapid Star, is in the booth with Coma. Quite the brains trust there, and things have changed on the Rift too. We'll get onto that as the game goes. We are on 7.1 with Teemo disabled today. You wouldn't think we'd have to talk about Teemo being disabled. We saw 2 Teemo games last season, so no Teemo, 7.1. Champions Korea OGM broadcast starts now.
All right, well, time to dive into it. I'm especially excited because this is our first Coma draft with a new system. 10 bans coming through. Jin Air on the blue side. First thing that they'll take away is going to be that Elise.
Really interesting to track. Watching the game so far, there has been 1 day of challengers and 1 day of LCK played on the 10-ban system. So when it comes to Premier Regions, they're the first 2 debuts of this 10-ban system. So far, 100% pick ban has been Maokai, LeBlanc, Camille, Ryze, Rengar, Zyra, and Vaz. Lots of power picks, a lot of flexible champions. The only champion that's been banned in all 10 games that have been played so far is LeBlanc, and no surprise that it's banned, but kind of a surprise that it's SKT that have to ban LeBlanc, but of course it's because they are on the red side.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzan wouldn't mind getting his hands on that champion. So, just want to take that one off the board. Syndra, the follow-up from Jin Air. See where they want to go. Get some nice
remix
music going on here.
You got to be on your toes. Every time there's been a break, they'll just remix that familiar champion select before you know it.
But Camille off the board. Rengar as well, been a really popular ban so far.
We've seen it once. Crash played it, and Crash dominated. And Longzhu's only win against Samsung yesterday, so predictably is banned away. The trend so far has been, if there's a real high priority mid laner, you might see it taken. A Ryze, for example. Camille also was taken at first pick when available. But with Ryze banned here, the general trend has been bot lane and support in the first round, and then the counter picking predictably begins as we get into the second round of the draft.
Yep. And Cassiopeia, something that we've also seen maintain its level of priority in the mid lane. Could see that come out later in the draft. For now, with the jungle pool pinch just slightly, Lee Sin will be coming through from on the side of Jin Air. And so I'm not going to be going for something in the bottom lane to start things off. Want to get a very strong jungler to kick things off at the start. SK Telecom could just be going for the Ashe. There we go. They're going to lock that in with the Zyra.
And that's just the predictable. Again, the bot lane has been the focus. With all AD carries available, it's interesting to see Ashe still retaining the same position it did by the time the World Championships reached its final stage. The utility carries still seem to be the story. The answering pick to Ashe so frequently has been the Jhin, both of them initiators. So wouldn't be surprised to see it here. And we could also see the MF lock-in, because that is still the pick du jour to deal in lane with the Zyra.
Yeah, very well could see that one come through from Snowflower, but the Jhin for now, absolutely locked up. And the Tahm Kench, another one that has been, played in the past to counteract that Ashe. You see the arrow come through. If it connects,
and it's a more general thing as well. So the story so far has been a lot of lane prior. They've been just locking in Misfortune to focus on laning. Tahm Kench is laning the support role. Not wonderful, but you pick it out, Achilles. A lot of comps have been all about, in the second round, developing a strong pick comp. Ashe is the start of that. Ashe, Kha'Zix now, something like a Nautilus to really set up reliable CC for the deletion damage from Kha'Zix has been the story. So Tahm Kench, I was going to say, is rising in priority because, okay, you trade the 2v2 laning, but because so many teams are running pick comps, Tahm Kench is the ultimate answer to something like the Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, big denial, but you can see right there, and you heard the gas from the crowd, Kha'Zix locked in for Peanut. Has been running rampant on the Rift for quite some time, now going into the second ban phase. Malzahar off the board from SK Telecom, Rumble as well from Jhin Air. So that's been a bit of an interesting one, seeing the Rumble come back out in the bans. We saw some of that yesterday.
I mean, the big story yesterday was, of course, Smeb's favorite blind pick top laner was the Rumble, so it was a targeted ban there. I'm really interested to see Malzahar banned first when Tahm Kench is already shown. Tahm Kench is going to be the support pick here. Outside chance, you could say that Ixu effects at the top, but not really realistic. So it's surprising to see a Malzahar ban after support was locked in. The Katarina ban from Jhin Air is predicted. By far the most played for Faker has been Katarina and solo queue. Him and BDD right up the top of solo queue, playing a lot of that Katarina, so not wanting to offer that. And now with Maokai taken away, considered by myself and many analysts the strongest top laner right now because can lane so well, especially after the Poppy nerfs, that he just gets through the laning phase and is the strongest tank late game. Waiting to see what Jhin Air wants to do because they have to ban pick mid lane. And Cassiopeia, it's been a comfort pick for Kuzan in the mid lane. And you hear that, Gus? That's Ixu locking in Kled. Interestingly, Kled is his third most played in solo queue, so I had it on the list if we got to see some top lane bans. Surprised to see it though, so high priority, and maybe trying to catch Huni unawares in his Korean debut.
I mean, you talk about Maokai being so dominant in the top lane. How do you expect this Kled to really play into that?
Well, the thing about Maokai is, okay, he has decent base values early, but he doesn't often get solo kills, right? It's more about just laning safely. So theoretically, you can take this riskier pick in the top lane. It's not a true carry, will build a bit of damage at the start, but those trades, especially with the W early, can be really, really powerful. So for a first Kled locked in for LCK in game one of the day, something exciting, and yep, gotta remember those skill names as well. Bear Trap on a rope, I remember that one.
Yeah, gotta do the refresher course. Kled, not necessarily one of the ones that you expect to come through, but I mean, first game here, OGN, we're the LCK, and we are just chock full of surprises. I like it, and I think that we are going to have one hell of a day worth of games coming towards us. Papa Smithy, get ready to kick things off with game one here. Jhin Air, SKT, interesting drafts on both sides. I'm really excited to see Peanut come out with this Kha'Zix. We know how aggressive he likes to play. If he can get rolling on that, then it is just going to be absolutely devastating.
But all focused on the solo lanes because of the change. Counter picking is a true story, so we'll get more information about the Kled versus Maokai. I think in the first 4 levels, there could definitely be some all-in potential for the Kled. The jungle, both these players most played recently has been the Lee Sin, but Peanut picks up the Kha'Zix. That has certainly put up a lot of impression. We'll talk about the re-rise of Kha'Zix into the competitive scene later. Baker was the one that got the counter pick when it comes to the other solo lane, though. Orianna traditionally does very well against Cassiopeia after laning phase. And then AD carry support, sure, Tahm Kench is not wonderful, but expect mostly a farm lane between these two teams.
Yep. We'll have to see how Teddy is going to fare in that bottom lane. I mean, promising talent. We saw him, as mentioned in the Kespa Cup, looked quite strong as an AD carry, but going up against Bang, the potential best in the world. But let's go ahead. Let's not wait any longer. Let's get onto the Rift for Game 1, SKT versus Jhin Air. A lot of fans on both sides SK Telecom, of course, coming out with the fan club, distributing some nice posters into the audience, so they'll be sporting those throughout the broadcast. I'm sure we'll get to see them on camera as we go throughout. But so far, it's going to be starting off fairly standard. No shenanigans for either of these teams.
We certainly saw some shenanigans yesterday from Samsung in particular, going for a cheese invade with the Kha'Zix. I think it was actually Kha'Zix Maokai as a duo onto the blue side and counter jungling from Longzhu. That was one of the things that got them the win. I believe it was Game 3 yesterday. There are the T1 fans. New signs, old signs. New fans, old fans.
Yep. A lot of jerseys and jackets as well out in that audience. So I wonder if they've pushed out the new Huni line at the SKT shop.
Get that plug when we know for sure, but yeah, plenty of merchandise sales for both Huni and Peanut, who are big names inside and outside of Korea. Looking at the Korea win rates between Faker and Kuzan. Predictably, Faker doing pretty well, but Jin Air has from time to time taken games away from SKT, whether they were riding high at the top of the table or whether they were struggling. So always a rivalry to track, even though, of course, at the end of the season, it's always been SKT hoisting the trophy.
Yep. So I'm going to be seeing Huni going for that Corrupting Potion. Not going to be starting off with the Doran's Ring, as we sometimes see from those top lane Maokais. Get a little bit more aggression in. But once that sustainability, so far, doing all right against Ixu. Going to be trying to whittle him down, get rid of Skarl, and just limit that mobility on Kled, but going to be a fairly slow way to kick things off.
I like to really think about Kled as a level 4 champion, a level 3 champion. Get all your abilities and then a second point in an ability. And just like Rumble kind of peaked at level 4, it feels like Kled's all in is really powerful. Level 3, level 4, especially with Fervor for Battle, which is, of course, the keystone that's been taken by Kled. So even though Huni has the early pushing advantage, used a lot of mana, so maybe just going to push and leave lane. Otherwise, maybe we'll finally see those Kled trades that can be so deadly.
I mean, he can set up a gank really well with that bear trap on a rope. Pull them in, and he can line up that Sonic Wave for now. Peanut wandering over to spot him out. There's a ward over into the Krugs, and he'll take that Blast Cone for a ride over into the Dragon Pit. So just going to be spotting out, so good tracking coming in from Peanut so far.
This is still pretty damn powerful on 7.1. We're toned down a little bit. It is that extra camp to hit level 4, but the level 3 power spike remains the same. 3 camps, including the 2 big ones, will hit you the level 3. Already some pink ward coverage here, so Kuzan does have some information about coming in.
Yeah, he's going to jump right in onto Kuzan, gets a good amount of damage, and flash forward from Faker. The last auto attack takes him down. First blood going over to SKT.
Yeah, we didn't toggle vision, so we can't be 100% certain that he spotted Peanut, but end result was just enough. Wolf, though.
Yeah, in a bad spot, has to throw out the exhaust. Going to be traded back onto Bang. Snowflower not able to secure a kill. Wolf does hold on to his flash, however, but the heal gets used by Bang. So a trade of summoners in favor of Jin Air in the bottom lane.
Yeah, felt like Kuzan tried to be steadfast with the summoner spells. In the end, was punished. Both summoners down. Faker used his flash, but still has Ghost up. There is that potential for a wraparound gank from Peanut in just a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah, Faker going to be pretty well set now over that first blood coming through from him. Lost Chapter and Boots, so going to have that added mobility, dodge away from those poisons. So Kuzan's going to be in a bit of a rough patch. Peanut, of course, sacrificing some CS to get that gank on the board. We'll see if he's going to be able to catch back up to Umte, and if Umte can match that aggression around the map and try to put some kills on the board for Jin Air Green Wings. So for now, just going to be 1 kill coming through 5 minutes in, and 700 gold up for SK Telecom. This is their comfort zone.
And SKT have been really puzzling to track in LCK specifically. Their Worlds results, their MSI results, certainly without parallel on the international stage, but struggled in great swaths of both spring and summer season during the early regular season, then kind of got it together towards the end of both of those seasons. So they want to impress, a lot of players here, including Peanut and Huni, coming in with impressive reputations, but building one for SK Telecom is a really different story. So how this season pans out is going to be really exciting to track, because we know this team will be going deep into the World Championships. It's an inevitability at this point.
Sure, but this time they might have KT Rolster right next to them. As they do that, of course, we don't get a Telecom War for a considerable amount of time. I think it's March, right near the end of round 1. that we finally will get to see those two Titans clash.
And you want the instant gratification, right? You really want to see it this week, but there is also an advantage to the teams actually playing 7, 8 best of 3s without facing each other, then facing each other with that experience, with the early kinks, because of course KT, they still had some problems. You could still see that they're a very new team. Those kinks shouldn't be there 9th game of the season, and that's one to circle on the calendar because it's going to be epic.
For sure. And then we get a follow-up match pretty immediately after that in round 2. So we'll get back-to-back telecom wars just about, so will be very exciting times when that does wrap around. But we have to see how KT is also going to develop. They did look a little bit shaky in the beginning of that game 1, and then Def just absolutely popped off on Ezreal. And then game 2 happened. But it's definitely going to be one hell of a story to see how that super team can come together and continue to grow. Oh, here we go, though. Umti coming in. Nice petrifying gaze onto Faker. Beautifully played by Umti and Kuzan in the mid lane. Faker just didn't even see it coming.
Faker looks...
Peanut just down this dragon.
He looks bemused as Faker. Did not see it coming like you said. Peanut falls super low. No burn effect on the Ocean Drake means he will survive, but came through a ward, but just with such rapidity. And the fact that he just committed to the flash instantly into the kick. Nice stuff from Umti. And hey, if it translates from solo queue into competitive that well, maybe he's a name we'll remember come the end of the season.
I'm sure he would definitely like that. But yeah, no hesitation whatsoever. And Faker just can't respond, so he goes down, and a kill does go over to Umti. Couldn't hand it off to Kuzan, but you'll be sit a kill, not the worst of things. I'm sure they're going to be pretty happy about that in the end.
He's going for a solo queue build as well. When you see the Rejuve beat, you know it's going to be Tiamat, so going to go fairly damaging clear.
Oh boy, Teddy get hit up by that Cheddar Crystalline arrow, but the exhaust is through from Bang. Flash forward by Snowflower, flies Wolf and takes him out. Pretty much a solo kill just about onto the Zyra. Nicely done by Jin Air. They'll put a second kill on the board and find themselves with a very slight gold lead. Our
intro teases all about the splitting up of the Rocks Tigers predictably as the second strongest team in the world, most would say, on the end of last year. Ixu's going to channel the ult. I'll finish that thought in a moment.
He's charging through, but Faker, he's already out of there. Didn't even need to pop. The Ghost just gets that move speed from the command distance, and he is fine underneath this tower.
We're going to have to call that one a mulligan, I guess, when it comes to the charge, but...
You tried.
But yeah, we focus on the Rocks Tigers breaking up. The Rocks Tigers now, in many ways, are the majority of the Afrika lineup. The Afrika Freaks, who finished 5th in both spring and summer season, have kind of splintered between Jin Air and the Rocks Tigers. You look at this team, Ixu and Snowflower were both cornerstones of that Afrika lineup. It's also the first time we've seen Snowflower and Sangyun, the old streamer duo that came into competitive together on Afrika, separated. And it's nice to see Snowflower have a moment of his own because, again, these two were always kind of a single thought in your mind. It was Snowflower and Sangyun. It wasn't the skills of one or the other, as Faker has to respect Flash.
Yeah, meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Snowflower going low, doesn't have any summoners, but they can't quite get to him to finish him off.
They're so lucky the wave came just as it did. It buys them time. Now Umti can rotate down. Now suddenly it's an overstay by Peanut and Wolf, and they have to back away.
Yep. No more kills coming out of the bottom lane. You can see SKT, we weren't sure how aggressive they were going to be, but it seems like it's going to be pretty damn aggressive coming out the gates. But Jin Air, they've been able to keep up with the pace that was set at the beginning of the game by Faker.
And there's no shackling Peanut. What you will see this season is that he will not be the plug-and-play replacement for someone like Bengi. He will not be a defensive ward bot and largely just take a small gold share and farm his own minions. He will still be aggressive. I think he only goes one way. I saw him on Najin on his first team. When he could play aggressive, fantastic player. When he had to kind of play the meta farm on champions like Rek'Sai, it didn't look the same. So at least based on game 1, looks like they're going to keep Peanut the same, and we're going to look to Faker and Huni mostly to do the adjustments.
Yeah, and I mean, that adjustment was one of the biggest concerns that we had about Huni coming into SK Telecom. So far, he's been doing fine. You know, just standard Maokai play up in the top lane, stretching a bit of a CS lead.
Of course, we still do have that very, very small sample size. 10 minutes of game 1, but it's going to be an ongoing story, just how SKT fit together, because...
Oh, that's okay. Abyssal Voyage into the back. Bang's going to flash away from that first shot. Second's not going to connect, and now, it does clip him here. But the Tongue Lash isn't going to land. Ash Arrow comes through onto Umte. The Devour comes through by Snowflower, and no one will die, but they get a heck of a lot of Summoner spells out of Bang.
Ix is already flashed preeminently here. I believe he saw Cards on the ward. Yep, pinged him out, so did not want to stay overextended. He's kind of lucky in that his ultimate's kind of an escape also, just like Sion's was when he was in the meta. So you can just roll away when you see the jungler coming, even if it flashes down.
Sion is like kind of yelling at you as he's charging away from you. He's calling you like a pansy, and he's running away at the same time. Peanut trying to get in on the Kuzan, but he pops a ghost and will be able to waddle his way out of the mid lane. Doesn't have to burn the flash. So decent pressure there, but still SK Telecom is going to be stagnating on this gold lead at the moment.
It's been competitive, which is not something we could know for sure. There is more talent on Jin Air's lineup than a lot of people know, and that's because they have two pure rookies. Teddy played a couple of good Jin games in the Kesper Cup, but again, not a lot of people watched that tournament, not a lot of fanfare. Umti is just straight up out of sight, out of mind when it comes to junglers. Maybe played a couple of competitive games, but certainly not the relevant experience. So seeing these players here, and then knowing that Ixu very much is a solid top laner, knowing that Kuzan is one of those star mid laners towards the middle of the pack in Korea. Yeah, it's a lot to like as Ixu.
Oh, it's going to interrupt the charge. Here comes Peanut. Skarl goes heading for the hills, and looks like they will pick up the kill. Peanut taking that one away. 1-0-1 on the board for him. Nicely done, and they take down the Kled.
Yeah, really nice stuff from Huni. Flash straight in, just like you can with Sion ults. The same mechanics there to interrupt the roll away. Got the kill. Huni's playing Maokai, which I guess we should have talked about a bit more on Champion Select. The top Lucian meme is still a big reality, but has played these tanks from time to time. And predictably, if you can play Riven, if you can play the difficult champions, Maokai's pretty straightforward.
You can probably play the point-and-click CC Maokai. Yep. Not that hard to figure out. Jin Air, though, going to be picking up that first brick gold as they try to hand this all over to Teddy Nine. This wave, there we go, 650 over onto the Jin. Interestingly enough, going for the Youmuu's Ghost Blade to start things off. We kind of started drifting away from that starting item, that sort of build from the Jin, but here comes Peanut yet again. Beautiful shockwave set up by Faker. Peanut leaps in over the wall. They hand yet another kill over to the Kazakhs, but now Ixu has something to say about this. Bear Trap on a rope, connects on a Faker, draws him back in, and Ixu is able to take him out.
Yeah, really nice collapse. Just because of the timing, Ixu was coming from spawn. Didn't have teleport up, didn't have ult to get there faster. In the right place at the right time, so it's a 1-for-1. And has some turret damage as well. They're still winning this early game so far.
See how much more they can get. Peanut can't really walk up to try to clear this out because somebody still has the Dragon's Rage, still has that flash available. And they certainly could lock him down, but you can see turret falls to about 1/3 HP. So nicely done by Jin Air, trading back and getting more for it.
I mean, it was a big commitment from SKT. It was a turret dive, it was well executed, but the steps aren't necessarily there that, say, the Rocks Tigers would have if they were going for such dives. They're pretty shallow in terms of vision, a couple of wards around the area, and then just got collapsed because of the respawn time. So, predictably, it's their first competitive game. It's very early in the season, but it's certainly not the polished Faker and Peanut assassinations that we'll see later in the season you have to expect.
You have to hope for the sake of SK Telecom and their fans. But still, just going to be maintaining pretty much perfect harmony across the board outside of the turrets. Snowflower has to flash away. They're going to get popped up by the vines, but Ash Arrow comes through. They lock him up, pops a great health. Blast Cone sends him over the wall, and Peanut back into the Dragon Pit, and he will make it out alive. Nicely played by Snowflower.
Yeah, Snowflower actually autoed it, but got interrupted by the Ash Arrow, then still lived through the CC duration, got over anyway, so got out. But first Drake was soloed by Peanut. The second one will get some help. And just talking a bit about Kazakhs, you know, a lot of people think of him as a solo queue champion just because a melee assassin with resets sounds great in solo queue, but on paper, how does it translate into competitive play? What people don't talk about is that with the change to Q, specifically the 1 second or less cooldown, the refresh system you get when something is isolated, Kazakhs obliterates Baron and Drake. And that's the big story there, is that because he obliterates neutral objectives, he still is very useful, even if he's not getting the ganks off. And that's why we see him so highly regarded.
I mean, imagine if you had a Faker on the Cassiopeia with that Kazakhs coming through, just solo, or duo the Baron rather early. But they pick up that Mountain Drake, but Jin Air, they revisit this mid lane, and they knock down that tier 1 tower.
You got the 1+1 going there. How about you just add in Maokai to tank the thing? And you're right, deletion damage, a Mountain Drake. Baron could be a really big early priority for SKT.
You know, it's going to get rooted. And they'll open up with a curtain call. Doesn't really have any hope of killing anybody. Maybe steal a wolf, but you know, he'll be all right. Clears out the camp. And that'll just go on a cooldown here for Teddy. So SKT, what's their next move going to be? Losing 2 towers in the mid and bottom lane. Haven't seen Huni contribute much yet, as SKT hasn't really gotten into a position to go for a full-on team fight, so it hasn't been necessary for the teleport. Now, Looney going to be in a rough spot as Jin Air just going to look to tack on third turret on.
They've been dictating the pace of this game from the moment they got the first brick. They've been rotating around, have mid. Now, because of the Tahm Kench ultimate, have the inside track to top, have top turret to half health, and unless they bring Faker, who traditionally has been anchored to mid, okay, we're going to see this ult.
Yeah, charges coming through, jumps straight in onto Huni. Brutal connect on the Wolf, throws down the ultimate, flashes away, but it doesn't matter. Umte is sticking to him like glue. Devour comes through from Snowflower, keeping his Lee Sin alive. But here comes Faker, throws out the orb, but doesn't go for the shockwave. Peanut is able to pick up a kill onto the Lee Sin, and now Faker finding Snowflower, burns through him as well. 2 for 1 in favor of SK Telecom, plus a turret in the bottom lane. Nicely traded across the board. SK Telecom coming out on top and getting themselves a bit of a gold lead.
And SKT had that extra time with the third turret to know exactly how to rotate. They saw Tahm Kench holding to top. It was very clear what Jin Air wanted to do. They got the chunk on top, but this was an overcommitment. There was no need to dive. They thought the dive might dissuade Huni and Wolf from walking up. The Faker was already able to ghost over. The rotation was there. Faker could also take the inside track. If Cassiopeia had rotated first, occupied the tri-brush, no way for Orion to get there that fast. Suddenly, maybe this play works. But the fact that they could win, get kills 4v5, and also take bot lane turret is a big momentum shift towards SKT. And funnily enough, they're now ahead in gold.
Yep. Almost 1,000 up at the moment for SK Telecom. Going to be looking to keep that ball rolling. And again, they're still going to be down by a turret, so if they can equalize that objective count, they'll be in a very good spot to continue rolling. Peanut now 3-0-2 on the Kazakhs, pretty much the exact performance that we expected from him, maybe with a couple more kills at this point in the game, but still doing some solid work for SKT.
While we have a bit of lull in the action, I want to talk about the AD carry builds. You touched on it a bit earlier, the fact that the Youmu's first was the pickup from Teddy. Sure, some people have phased it out, but the build we saw from Prey yesterday was still the rush on the Youmu's for the move speed, for the repositioning, and the early arm penetration. I guess you could call it the lethality, which of course isn't quite as much armor penetration in the early game, but regardless, the early stats. And from there into Infinity Edge, still to have a good 2-item spy, because Ixu's just rushing mid, I guess.
He's just going for a little stroll with Skarl.
Not necessarily a tutorial for how to use that Pled ultimate.
That's very true.
But you look on the side of Bang, he's actually going for Essence Reaver, which a lot of people have said Infinity Edge first is the new build. Consider the team comp he has. He has Orianna Kazakhs. He has a big high damage jungler. This Ashe is much more about starting the fights with low cooldown on the Ashe Arrow, the utility side, than necessarily having to go Infinity Edge first. If you have a tank jungler, sure you can go for IE, but we're seeing some more flexible item build paths as players realize, oh wait, I don't actually need IE first. Doesn't matter if I get that big crit. Kazakhs will shoulder the damage in the early game, and these items will come together later.
Yep. Well, Bang hasn't yet gotten involved in those kills, had that split going on in the bottom lane, now rotating up to top. As we can see, Teddy and Snowflower are there to match this push coming through from that Ashe-Zyra combo. So they have to be careful. That top turret is very low, so if they do have to back off and try to find Sanctuary underneath of that, Jin Air would be able to finish it off rather quickly.
Well, the momentum from Jin Air has been slowing down. Suddenly it's SKT that can take the more aggressive paths through the enemy jungle to get turrets. One turret answered, now a second one. Very good early playbook from Jin Air, but the moment that SKT actually had the trump card, had the answer to Jin Air's fast push, Jin Air kind of held back, respected their opponents more and more, and now suddenly it's SKT that seem to be dictating the pace of the action.
Yeah, which is something that we are very used to here in the LCK. It just took them a little while to get to that point. But now, going to be just under 2,000 gold ahead for SK Telecom, 20.5 minutes. So not the largest lead. They're going to lose a little bit of that here as Jin Air will be able to finish this final Tier 1 tower. So they take that out. Now it's just going to be 1.1k for SK Telecom to work with. Good spot out there by Bang. Sees 3 members running down the river, so they get a pretty good idea of where everybody on Jin Air is. But now you can see the vision priority around Baron Pit starting to come through. Cassiopeia there for Jin Air. If they could find, unique vision, then and they would be able to burn through that. But to fake out SKT, Peanut, in the meantime, he's been really dedicated to these Dragons. Moving over, we'll find a second Mountain Drake by the look of things. Things are coming out. Ixu throws a ward over the wall, so they see this being taken, but doesn't look like they want to try and go contest this.
Looking for an angle. They do have the ultimate from Ixu up. Drake's low. They just end up waiting too long. They had pretty much complete information there.
I mean, Umti just went over to the Krugs instead of trying to, get more vision or try to wrap around and contest that Drake. So double Mountain Drake now over to SK Telecom. And I mean, you mentioned the reset on the isolation for the Q for Peanut. Now with double Mountain Drake, you put him and Huni in a Baron pit, and that thing is going to die.
Yeah, that's the thing. I misspoke a bit earlier talking about SKT having the Caspios. Of course, the Oriano's Baron threat isn't the same.
Oh, that's going to be the Crystalline Arrow coming through. Does connect on the Teddy. And the Roots will not lock up Snowflower, so they'll be able to walk away.
But those three, even the Oriana just shielding the Maokai. Maokai's not going to take any damage, and Kha'Zix will really shoulder the damage to that Baron. So still very much Baron threat to be respected on the side of SKT.
Oh, for sure. And Peanut completing that Black Cleaver has a hell of a lot of damage to dish out. So I'll have to keep our eye on him when it comes to these team fights, whether or not he's going to be able to get the resets and hop his way to a pentakill potentially.
The team fight phase to me looks much more straightforward for SKT. Good ranged initiation, point and click initiation from the Maokai, and to actually make the charge work here from the Kled, you have to consider that, I mean, Huni's just going to stand in front of the ult and basically block it, and if the rest of the members, the Oriana and Ashe, stay back, they're not going to be under any real threat. Sure, there'll be movement speed, but there's actually a bit of negative synergy between, say, a Kled who wants to dive in and a Cassiopeia who's much better kiting backwards with the Petrifying Gaze. So to make this team comp work, we're probably going to see really creative angles from the Kled initiation. Otherwise, it just feels like Maokai is going to kind of shrug and stop it from being
made. Boy, Umti, goodbye and good night. Gets caught out over the wall with the Roots from Wolf, and they absolutely decimate him. Faker taking away that kill, and that's going to open up for this final Tier 1 to fall in favor of SKT. 2,500 gold on the board for them. And Ixu just keeps wanting to run at Faker. Hasn't really found any good initiations yet. But yeah, one of the things I was actually about to bring up before MT got caught was there's really no tanky frontline for Jin Air. No one can run at this SKT lineup.
Shot in the Baron, we can't see the health. Okay, it's down to 3,000 already.
Yeah, they're really working through this one. Ixu in the thick of the pit. Bang has to flash out the back. You have to expect that Peanut will have the kill. There it is, comes through. Kuzan going low, flashes away, but I don't think it's enough. Flash forward from Huni, locks him up with the Q. He's got Ixu sticking to him like glue, takes that twisted advance forward to find a kill onto the enemy mid laner, tries to run away. Not able to do so. Now Faker alone with Teddy takes him out. Ixu will connect with that bear trap. MT rejoining the team. Dragon's Rage forward. Misses. The Sonic Wave, but Faker doesn't really have anywhere to go. Draws the ball into himself. It still goes down. 4 Baron buffs lost on the side of SKT. They get the gold. They get 3 kills. But they lose a hell of a lot. Yeah,
and Ixu was left kind of just all to his own devices and put out so much consistent damage. We're going to see the replay. Important ultimate, got them the vision, they got them the knowledge. Baron goes down quickly, but then Jin Air commit, and they commit at the right time. Baron's at 1,600 health. Suddenly Bang has to flash out of the pit, and sure, no counter smite to try and interrupt Peanut, but Peanut goes down, and crucially, Ixu is free hitting with these violent tendencies. Faker walks in, gets the assassination on Teddy. You think things are fine, but Bang has given up on this fight, and Ixu just keeps acquiring target after target, hits those skill shots. Umti respawns. He wasn't even alive when the Baron was started.
I mean,
and Ixu's just the MVP here.
It's sub 25 minutes. The respawn timers are so short at this point, so Umti very easily able to rejoin his squad. And yeah, Ixu, you said it, the MVP of the fight, had some really questionable plays with the charge, but when you just get him in this massive brawl around the pit, he absolutely excels.
And you have to wonder where the shot calling disconnect was, because Faker clearly wanted to go in, walks and assassinates the Jin. That part we saw, but we didn't see off our screen. Bang was just clearing minions in mid, so either someone was overly confident or there was a lack of information processing because they didn't respect the respawn timer or Ixu's damage. And hey, we don't see a lot of Kled. First Kled in LCK. Maybe they just didn't respect just how much damage that top laner can put out.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how the Titanic Hydra here for him, looking for Guardian Angel next as third item. SKT posturing up in the mid lane, get the wave moving, but Can't really walk up to the turret to get any damage in. Just have that one Baron buff on Bang to work with.
Rotating through, putting down this deep vision. Pick comp with Kha'Zix has deletion damage, so Jin Air have to be very, very defensive-minded. Walking through their own jungle is super risky. Wave clear's not wonderful on the side of Jin Air, as you can see.
Shockwave finds Teddy. Big Devourer coming through from Snowflower, keeping him alive. They'll just have to go ahead and sacrifice that tier 2 tower. SK2, do they want to stick around, or do they want to back off? They see Ixu moving up into the top lane. Huni goes back to try to answer for the push. But look at that damage coming through already. He starts shredding out that turret.
And this is the best case scenario for Jin Air because they don't have wave gun, because the hard engage of the Kled ultimate just doesn't look like it's going to work against a Maokai in position. Much better for them to set up the 4-1, try and answer with objectives. It's just falling low, and we can see on our minimap, Bang is coming to try and help as well.
Yeah, won't be able to get there quite in time. Huni just going to roughhouse him a little bit. He'll hold onto that turret. Oh, try to interrupt the recall from Snowflower and get a pick, but he sidesteps it right at the last second. And he will stay alive to tell another tale. So SKT able to get that turret. Where do they go from here? You can see Huni starting the push up into the top lane. Dragon coming up, and Peanut, he's there in an instant. Infernal Drake looking like it's going to go over to them. MT getting hit up by that Shockwave Faker, just making sure they can't even get towards the pit to try to contest. And that is going to be a 4th Dragon picked up for SK Telecom. That Elder Drake, if they can get it, is going to be very scary for Jin Air.
And I'm happy you brought up that point, because suddenly a 4-stack Elder Drake is looking pretty comparable to Baron buff in terms of impact. There was that buff onto Elder Drake in the post-Worlds patches, lasts an extra 30 seconds in duration. Now you'd actually have more of a window, a more forgiving window to actually make use of it. But the team comps that couldn't use Elder Drakes were the team comps that were short on initiation. SKT is not short on initiation, so once they pick up that buff, would certainly be some turret dives are plenty coming. As long as Maokai's taking turret aggro, they can dive for days.
Yeah. Some turret deaths for sure. Could use that true damage to work through Ixu. Knock him down rather quickly. Still not the tankiest. Has that GA. Keeping the fight a bit longer, but otherwise doesn't have that many tanky stats. See, Teddy, surprisingly coming out, has a gold lead over top of Bang in his LCK debut.
In this situation, if you're Jin Air, your job is basically to get down as much vision as possible, as safely as you can, and how you do that is a buddy system. Basically, Snowflower follows around a Lee Sin, follows around a Kled, and just continues to sweep, continues to put out vision, because both Baron and the Elder Drake are now must-stop objectives for Jin Air. They usually are in even the worst case scenario, but this is kind of the best case scenario for SKT, where they have all the Drakes to make this Elder Drake just that much more crucial. So Tahm Kench can stop the Ash Arrow from answering, but putting down vision and cancelling out vision to stop this pick comp from just getting assassinations and getting a objective for free is the game plan for Jin Air right here.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to put some vision down around the Baron. Minute and a half, less than now, before that comes in on the respawn. And SKT now with the Infernal Drake would be able to kill it that much faster. Teddy going to go ahead, pop the Ghost Blade, going to start running up the river, trying to get towards Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut and Faker corralled.
Oh yeah, they're going to lock down Faker. Gets devoured, flashes away, still getting hit by the bullets, and he's going to die now. Peanut really nowhere to go, jumps over the wall, can't flash out. There's too many people, has to run up the lane. Looks like he will be able to make it out alive. Looney trying to come in on the flank. Gets pushed back by Kuzan, firing off with those Twin Fangs. Root won't connect from the Deadly Flourish, nor will the damage from the Redemption. They'll get a big heal onto Kuzan, however, and Jin Air is going to be happy about that. Now with Faker gone, they're going to look to push up this mid lane, maybe get a tier 2 of their own.
So Peanut was the one caught out putting aggressive vision, and then Faker tried to back him up, and then was caught in his own right. Suddenly Jin Air have inside track to mid. They don't have a minion wave, but for now that's not going to be an issue. Getting some damage down. They're going to finally wait and follow this minion wave as, Huni was pulling the minion wave, stopping them from getting an uncontestable in a turret mid.
Yeah, but I mean, still a couple seconds left on Faker. Looks like they will give up on the push, so Huni, nice job by him. Did have to use his flash to get away from that, however.
But it's really good game sense. I mean,
oh, sure.
That's the sort of thing that smart players do. They understand, well, this is inevitably going to happen. What can I change? They can't engage their 4v5, but pulling the minion line, suddenly you can't take that turret. So nice stuff from Huni and a heads-up play from him.
Yeah. Just saying for every action, a consequence. So won't be able to get those big flash twisted advance engages on the Teddy. Speaking of engage on the Teddy, he'll get hit by that crystalline arrow. Devour doesn't even need to come through from Snowflower. He knows that he's safe. SKT, they want the turret, not so much blood. They'll be able to knock that down. 5 for them as they move to a 4K plus gold lead and maybe have their eyes set on Baron. Peanut rotates over there. There's a couple wards in the river here for Jin Air, but otherwise they don't have much vision priority around the pit.
And Jin Air are in a pretty good spot defensively, all things considered. SKT don't have anywhere near the vision that would make them comfortable to start the Baron, regardless of Infernal Double Mountain. So regardless of the speed, they don't feel confident. There's another ult from the Kled.
Yeah, Ixu coming in, jumps over onto Huni. Get much done there. Gets onto Peanut. Works him down about half HP. Deadly Flourish will not connect, so he's safe for now. It's the command protect, but SKT, they have to be really careful with this engage with Wolf and Peanut both at about half HP.
Ixu himself, not full, but of course, so that untargetability and passive still available. Skull is healing up slowly. Peanut keeps farming. That means they can't have the same pressure they want around the Baron pit. The vision battle once again kind of stagnates. And Jin Air keep getting life after life. Sure, they're behind in Drakes. Gold lead, it's only 4,000 at 30, so it's very respectable. And this game, still up in the air, 32 minutes in. Not many people would have predicted that.
Yeah, looking way closer than anticipated. And it's just kind of been that way through the first series yesterday. And now here, Jin Air putting up one hell of a fight. Seems like this rookie talent might be paying off for them. I gave my power rankings for the LCK season, and maybe I placed Jin Air a little bit too low.
Yeah, I had a bit more faith in Jin Air just because these guys, I spoke to some analysts in the Korean senior players, people that were familiar with them in solo queue, and Teddy before the Kesper Cup, he was the player that was identified as being the best new talent in that tournament over someone like Prophet, who people had seen in the LSPL. People told me, Teddy, this guy is legit. He's had a decent game, hasn't made too many mistakes. His reputation was smaller, but still up there. People still said this guy's got something about him compared to, say, Haru, who couldn't get it done on CJ but looked good on Samsung yesterday. And he's played well here as well.
Ash Arrow coming through, locks up Ixu. Still has that Guardian Angel, still has Snowflower there to bail him out. Turn calls opened up. Teddy looking for Wolf or Bang, won't get too many shots, and finds Faker with a 4th and final. We'll take a decent chunk off of him. And SKT in a really awkward position. A little bit dissected here as Peanut was cut off from the rest of the squad. Huni trying to take up in the front lines. It's going to be Stranglethorns thrown down. Teddy getting beat on by those plants. Doesn't go down yet, but they're able to find Snowflower. That's the bailout for Jin Air. Completely wiped off the board. Big shockwave coming through. Umte able to jump out to safety. Kuzan still untouched with his Cassiopeia. He can't even try and turn around and help Ixu. Just has to hightail it, get himself out to safety. And Ixu, the land of the slaughter, surrounded by SKT, will go down. They get the Guardian Angel as well before that. And that should be a Baron, a second one going over to SKT.
My assessment of this Kled when it comes to the 5v5 team fights comes true. 2 team fights in a well. No way to acquire a target that isn't Huni in the front line. The last person you want to be focusing on. And crucially, it's just as Baron is spawned. They'll be able to rush it down instant. Look at the deletion damage coming out. It doesn't matter that they don't have a tank to tank it up. Such is the damage they put out. And okay, Elder Drake spawn. We're a little bit ahead of the game there. It is going to be a final Mountain Drake. That's 3 Mountain Drakes. So Baron at any point, you need consistent vision and you need people in the area, because 30% extra damage is going to be something impressive.
I mean, we'll take another look at this one. Looks like it might have been good for Jin Air after chunking out Faker, but SKT, they just turned this around so perfectly.
I mean, you need someone to threaten the backline. Orianna is a team fight general. Ashe does most of her work in the consistent slows and damage over time. And if Kled is not doing that, no one on the side of Jin Air is capable of hitting the backline. So predictably, you acquire the target of Huni, he doesn't die, the rest of Jin Air are the ones to fall.
Yep. And now SKT, they'll hold on to all 5 Baron buffs this time around, don't have to rely on only Bang for the pushing power. So they should be able to net themselves this final tier 2 turret and start knocking on the door of the base of the Jin Air Green Wings. You can see SKT already moving up here. They'll clear out these traps from Teddy. It's a root onto Peanut. A little bit of damage coming through as that grenade bounces onto his face. But doesn't want to open up with the curtain call. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and peel back as quickly as he can.
This is the only time that's really safe to open up, when Maokai still has a 3.5-second teleport timer to get into the fight. But Jin Air just seems to be trying to hold on to what they have. They aren't willing to pull the trigger on 4 squishy members in front of them, and the moment Maokai's there, all their options to initiate kind of go out the window.
Yeah, looks like they almost got that tier 2 tower in bottom. Ixu's been splitting down there for a while, and the waves have been crashing against it. It does go low. Huni's able to clear out the waves in time, has TP available. Did the fight break out? You have to think that's inevitability. Charge coming through, curtain call opened up. Will not find Peanut, knocks him down to about half HP before that expires. Huni coming in on the front line. Won't be able to lock down anybody long enough for Bang and Peanut to burn through them. But this is just going to be a game of inches now for SKT.
SKT's formation when Maokai is there is so straightforward. Huni just occupies all the space, about 500 units in front of his allies. And the moment a root comes down, they focus down a target. That is the way that SKT's comps work, and so far it's doing well.
Yep. Big heal off the redemption here for Jin Air, but they're still going to lose that inhibitor. SKT, do they want to push forward more? Do they want to peel back? Looks like it will be the latter. Could easily rotate over to the mid lane if they so wanted. Try to siege up yet again, but looks like it will be the recalls coming through. They netted themselves a good amount of gold, so they're going to go back home and spend it. And Peanut buys his first defensive item.
Well, yeah, it's a chain vest, so Guardian Angel is going to be the 1-item defense.
Okay, well, Mount Mortius.
It's mostly for the damage, let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's why Peanut's doing it, but somebody out there would be like, Mount Mortius has a shield.
You know, I saw Peanut build a Randuin's once. It was a once-off. I think it was a misbuy. I think he tried to buy Dead Man's Plate and kind of made a mistake. Didn't realize there was no offensive stats.
He didn't want it for the armor. He wanted it so they couldn't run away from him anymore.
Ah, so he could do more damage.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Makes more sense.
That's our Peanut. But yeah,
people
more
talk
Dominic's regard.
People talk about Huni playing tanks. I want to see Peanut play a tank. Can he play a tank? I mean, Warrior Enchant full tank. I'm gonna qualify that as a tank. Show me that one time, then I'll be surprised.
That would be pretty shocking.
He builds quite a lot of damage on his Rek'Sai even, so.
Yeah, Titanic Hydra. Kick things off with a very early Tiamat. That's just his style, man. It seems like SKT have found a good mesh so that everyone can play their styles, other than maybe Huni, who has been playing Maokai.
I mean, he's got Knight's Vow Maokai, just to provide more defensive stats for Faker, of course. Who else would it be? No AD carry. No.
Huni's really just trying to stamp out the Reddit criticism. Like, no, guys, I can play tanks.
I mean, Knight's
Vow play for the team.
Is the most obvious shield your, help out your AD carry item, but it's 2017, so Faker, of course. Being SKT and 2017, Bang gets no help at all.
I mean, if Koma tells you to build a Knight's Vow, you build a Knight's Vow, Papa. That's just how it goes.
The problem is he only said build Knight's Vow. He didn't clarify who for.
Yeah.
He didn't get to the link up. I just get the Knight's Vow. It's a support item, Huni.
It doesn't matter what champion it is. Build the Knight's Vow. Bang, gonna get some nice alone time on the turret. It's a little bit of damage, but now Huni gets a command protect just for that added defense. Walks up, and they're just starting to whittle this away. Super creep wave pushing into the base right now. Jin Air, they're going to have to respond to this. Get a root onto Bang. Curtain call comes out. Wolf takes the first. Huni looks like he might just take the preceding ones. And he will. So,
3-item Jin last. A 3-item Jin last hit did 240 damage, and he has armor penetration.
Seems balanced, man.
Just Maokai things. Maokai is on that list of 100% pick ban champions.
We went from just Poppy things, now it's just Maokai things. We're just stuck in the inevitable hell of tank top laners. And then there's Kled.
Hey, it's a welcome sight to see the Kled.
Oh, for sure.
Tank items, but something different. Ixu has been known for having a few different picks, and solo queue is most played as Singed, which we did see Expression playing yesterday. There's another champion that can profit from the tank meta.
Oh, getting jumped on. It's going to turn around. He's right back in to offer up some damage to Ixu.
I am heartened to see teams being like, oh wait, what beats the tanks again? People forget the Fiora that was always Sin as the tank buster, and then Singed just has that ability to proxy farm and pressure these low wave clear tanks.
I mean, we saw Smeb do a hell of a lot of work with Fiora yesterday as well. Oh, flash over the wall. Huni finally going aggressive. Gets on the Snowflower. They burn him down below half HP, but the great health is there to keep him alive for a bit longer. Elder Drake in the sights of SK Telecom. Really want to get that 4-stack buff. T has to use the blast cone to jump over the wall, get himself out to safety. And with that down, I think SKT could feel confident enough to wrap around, maybe even start up the Elder Dragon. There's one ward inside the pit that they have not cleared yet. Looks like it's just going to be the Scuttle Crab for now. Baron's also going to be an option in just 20 seconds. So at this point, the world is it's pretty much their oyster if you're SKT.
And just looking at the comp from Jin Air, you just wonder how they make a game-winning pick, how they make a game-winning play, because they're behind in gold. You know, it's about 8,000 gold at this point. Already we said initiation for them will be very tricky, given that Kled can't get it done against something like this Maokai. So to me, the best way to actually get an advantage for Jin Air is they're going to have Snowfire.
Oh, couldn't even use the great health shield. Bang just pops him with a massive crit. Now Huni coming in on the backside, gets a massive lockdown on the members of Jin Air. Ixu barely able to escape the shields from Umte, keeping him alive.
Oh!
Making sure he doesn't lose that GA, but nice sniping from Teddy. Will pick up Wolf as a consolation prize, but with no Cassiopeia, no Snowflower to bail out the remaining members of Jin Air, SKT, they are just going to leave the base in shambles as they push in and look for potentially all three inhibitors. The top one has respawned, but they could certainly sweep right through the base.
Yeah, SKT just needed to pick on someone. Picking the Tahm Kench is so much easier than relying on him being out of position.
He can't devour himself. That would look really weird.
Exactly. That would be weird. That would be weird from many different perspectives. I don't even know how you communicate that graphically.
Would you just vanish?
I guess so.
Inside your own
He just
self?
instant stealths, I guess. That's about the only thing that would make sense there. But a pick on anyone, the problems with the wave clear suddenly so much more obvious when you don't have a Tahm Kench to dissuade. You don't have that fifth member, and then they can power down the turrets. Instantly mid lane turret down, bot lane turret down, 3 inhibitors down, and we saw Longzhu put up a very valiant defense from this position, but I think SKT, they pick up the Elder Drake, they shoot an arrow at someone, and they end the game.
Good old pick tops with Ash. Pings are coming out from SKT onto that Elder Drake. Looks like they want to just go get some vision of it, not really opt into taking it. Baron, eventually a juicier option for them. So they can shred through that insanely quickly. They can shred through both objectives insanely quickly at this point. Let's see which they want to go for. Might just be a good old shove down the mid lane. They have 3 waves of super creeps coming in.
I mean, they're just going to take both objectives. They just push forward the minions. There's the Baron. Baron could be dead right now. We wouldn't know.
It's pretty close. There we go. That last 3,000 disappeared in about a second and a half.
I mean, it's dirty how much damage SKT do to the Baron. That 20%.
And yeah, it looks like it might just be both objectives picked up. Jin Air hovering around on this bottom side of the river. They do have some of their waves pushed out, so they are at least not in danger of losing their Nexus turrets at the moment. But look at this Elder Dragon just completely vanishing. He throws out that Sonic Wave. Won't be able to push forward. SKT, do they want to try to finish this one? Looks like it will be a yes. Peanut does find it. 4 buffs going over to them. Umti has to flash away immediately. Ixu getting locked out. Loses Scarl. Still has the Guardian Angel up to try to keep himself alive, but the Ash Arrow comes through from Bang. Huni locking him down with a Twisted Advance. They pop the GA. Ixu, he is dead to rights at this point. Peanut wants a taste of the action. Jumps over the wall. Actually doesn't even get an assist on that. He died before the Q even went off. And SKT, after finding that pick, it looks like they're going to end the game right here at 45 minutes.
Just teleporting in onto the super minion. It's going to be multiple minion waves and a Huni who is unkillable in the front line. And Jin Air put up a good defense, but SKT, predictably, get it done in the last.
Yeah, a bit of a slow start for them, considering their usual pace, but they get the ball rolling, and it just doesn't stop. SK Telecom 17-10 in the end with a 14,000 gold lead. Take down Jin Air in Game 1 in just under 45 minutes.
Still a couple of things to work out for SKT, but so far, so good. First question answered. Can Huni play tanks? Well, he's played Maokai before. Seemed pretty good on it here. He went the most supportive build you could ever ask. Who got the Locket? Who got the Knight's Vow? Both of them from Huni.
Just give him a redemption, and you're good to go.
I mean, when you have a jungler like Kha'Zix, you know the damage will be there when you have Faker on your team. Doesn't matter the champion, but Faker's Orianna. Bang on Ash, and then you have a damaged jungler as well, so he knew his role, and that's the only question mark you really have. The talent is certainly there on the paper for SKT. Could they adapt to their roles? And with a support staff like SKT, with the experience of SKT, we shouldn't be surprised. The answer, very resoundingly, is yes.
Yep. Really well played by SK Telecom. Jin Air having a very strong early game, you do have to say. Give credit where credit is due.
I mean, Jin Air wasn't embarrassed.
Yeah.
They played competitively. For a lot of the mid-game, they were there. first thing came together for SKT, and it kind of went with the game from there.
Well, they kick off with their usual style, 45-minute game for Jin Air, so keeping that consistent at least. But SK Telecom are able to take away that game. But Jin Air, they have a second chance. It is a best of 3, so they can come back into this new draft. We'll have to see how they're going to answer. That's going to be the really interesting thing, is how they come back into this 10-ban system and try to work out how they can win against SK Telecom to push us to a game 3. We're going to go to a quick break in just a second here, guys. When we come back, we will have that game 2. We'll see if SKT can close it out nice and cleanly, or if Jin Air will give them some trouble. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK. Just had SK Telecom take down Jin Air in slow but bleeding fashion, and your MVP
On debut
is Huni on Maokai.
And this season's mantra from OGN is rewind, reboot, and this is a hard reset for Huni. His second ever career game on Maokai as far as our stats can show us. First game was a loss, second game, he knew his role, and we wondered, Faker, Huni, Peanut, who will know their role first? And that answer very clearly is Huni, who went Knight's Vow, Rocket, Maokai. That is as far away from full damage Riven as you can get, Achilleos.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, he was just absolutely unkillable in those late game team fights. Seeing that fourth shot from a Jin deal about 200 damage.
He even had armor penetration.
Yeah, just couldn't do anything to Huni, and he was just constantly a force up in the face of Jin Air. He did actually take quite a beating in that one, but as the game went on, just couldn't really do a damn thing because he had all of those shields, had command protect coming through from Faker on occasion to set up the shock waves, and he just couldn't get whittled down. You'd see time and time again SKT just rolling over Jin Air, who had a very good, a very convincing start to the match, going back and forth as far as the gold lead was considered, even had the turret advantage for a while. But you give SKT an inch, they take a mile.
And just the draft from Jin just doesn't work in a late game 5v5 setting against this kind of frontline tank. So Maokai has been frequently banned so far in LCK, in Challengers, because you expect top laners to play Maokai, but the one guy you might actually leave up Maokai against is someone like Huni. So now the fact that he's shown that, yep, I'll play the tanks, suddenly your drafting style, any team playing SKT in the next few weeks has to respect that Huni clearly can play these frontline tanks. SKT is willing to go with that, and that suddenly shifts your strategy against SK Telecom T1.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now getting ready to go back into the draft for our game 2. You can see Koma and Rapid Star joining the players in the booth. We'll have to see what Jin Air is going to bring to the table. Guys, Kled, it was nice to see. Breath of fresh air in the top lane, but maybe not the pick needed to find success.
And you feel bad for Ixu, because the best parts of this game, when he wasn't missing Kled, I'll say were the funniest parts of the game, but the best parts of the game were when he ran wild, when SKT kind of disrespected Kled, and we saw what Kled can do in a true 1v1. It's just they needed to engage. They didn't get it from the Kled, so something that kind of flows better, that doesn't have the disconnect of, say, Cassiopeia and Kled in your solo lanes, would really behoove Jin Air, because you need every advantage you can get when you take the rift against SKT.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now we'll see if they're able to net themselves any advantage from the draft as we get the players into the lobby and get ready to get underway.
We have to reboot the music, because the draft actually failed the first time we tried to launch it.
Yeah, just gotta rejoin the lobby. Looks like we're missing, there's Umte coming in.
We'll get in there in a moment.
We'll shuffle him around, get back in there.
And just more data points on 7.1. More data points with 10 picks and bans. Because as I said, there was only 10 games before today played on this in competitive play. Now we have 11. We're only slowly inching forward. We've seen a lot of trends, which are duo lanes and jungle taken in the first round, and then counter picks. But we also see some other pre-planned styles, like Longzhu, for example, with their Singed, and then Longzhu in Game 2 leaving up Camille. That one was a bit of a night and day, where the Singed worked out. Unfortunately, the Camille certainly did not.
Yeah.
Because Camille is, let's just say, super balanced right now. The most balanced, you could say.
What do you mean? You don't like all that true damage Triforce proc that you can get?
I mean, not Faker. Zed says balance is weakness, and I don't know if that's true, because Camille shows you that balance is winning.
Well, look where Zed is right now. Not exactly in the meta, so what does he know?
I mean, they just kind of screwed him up, honestly, when it comes to Zed. The new ult passive, the like stealing AD thing versus the old percentage AD thing on W, really did seem to mess with him. He'll get iterated, I'm sure. We're going to see Zed at some point. I saw Faker playing Zed in solo queue. That probably doesn't mean too much, but
I mean, it's
being hopeful.
Faker playing Zed, so
True.
We'll see one day. I don't have my jacket on. I feel I wasn't prepared for this to come back to us.
If it was summer, we could say it was getting hot in here, but that doesn't work. It's actually really cold in Korea.
Well, in Korea, but it is a little bit warm in the studio.
Sure.
Because I mean, it's like, I don't know, 0 degrees outside Celsius at the
On
moment.
a good day.
And then they have to crank the heat in here, and then there's just hundreds of people in the studio. So it does up the temperature a little bit, but there we go. Looks like we have everything taken care of, and we are into the lobby for our second draft. SKT swapping over to the blue side. Let's see what they want to kick things off with.
Well, we know LeBlanc's not going to get through the bans, so that's one you can have inked in on the side of Jinner. Ban all 11 of those games. Katarina would be a sight. I'd love to see that. The question is, Faker's certainly been spamming it, so he probably has a good idea of it even in bad matchups. Are you willing to take it in the first rotation?
Probably not. I think that would be very, very bold. Speaking of first rotation champions, Camille taken off the board by Jinner.
Will Jinner ban the Maokai? That's my big question. We have traditionally seen Maokai slip to the second round, but we have seen some early rotation Maokai, and I think Maokai, with the Poppy nerfs, is a tier above Nautilus and Poppy, who are the other tanks in the top lane. Now, there are answers. We know about something like the Fiora. There are options available, so for now, no tanks are banned. It's been sprinkling of top laners and mid laners so far.
Yeah, Malzahar yet again going to be banned by SK Telecom. Their final ban in the first round, and Syndra will be taken off the board as well by Jinner. So
Rengar comes through.
Yeah, that's true.
It's insta-lock, of course.
Here we go. Well, Peanut gets his hands on yet another highly aggressive snowball jungler. And it looks like Umti might just be sticking to the Lee Sin yet again.
So the Syndra ban actually is what forces out the Rengar first pick, and blue side is the only side that will see a glimpse of Rengar as the balance levels stand now, because you look at the bans, LeBlanc and Camille are must bans. They are not options, and then Syndra piloted by Faker just sounds really, really scary. We have seen some teams leap open the Syndra. We saw, for example, KT Rolster happy to hand over Syndra and first pick Rise. But the mid lane, the Respector specifically, Faker will get means it's often going to be 2 to 3 mid lane bans, and it leaves open the Rengar for blue side.
Yeah. Well, looks like we have the Lee Sin and the Jhin for Jinner yet again. So we'll be revisiting those picks. I mean, Teddy, this has been, the most comfortable looking champion for him so far.
And these are the two rookies who've been drafted in the first round. Teddy looked much better on Jhin than other champions, so we still need to see him to really get a fully fledged opinion of his general strength. And Umti just had a very good game on Lee Sin, even if they didn't win. So keep the comfort on the rookies, keep them as comfortable as possible. Oh, is it going to be the first one?
Oh, dear.
This could just be Faker having a bit of fun, but it's locked
They
in.
lock it in. There we go. Ziggs and Zyra. Bot lane for SKT potentially.
So are we excited, or are we the first to be like, really, SKT? You're gonna do this to us?
Oh, I'm excited. I think that this is going to be one of the dirtiest bot lane games that we've seen in a considerable amount of time, Papa. I've been playing the Ziggs in the bottom lane. I know that you've tried your hands at it. It's absolutely oppressive. And I am ready to see what can happen when it's put into the hands of Bang.
I really don't know about the Tahm Kench lock-in either. It just means lots of grouped bombs coming through. Tahm Kench can do nothing against a lane as oppressive. This is the strongest 2v2 lane you could ask for. Ziggs and Zyra will do unbelievable ranged poke, and as a melee support, oh boy.
I mean, even if you get the Devour off, you can just satchel charge them back into your team, and then suddenly you pop both people back.
You can't pick a melee support against this line. You can understand with the Rengar why they're doing it, but this 2v2 lane will be just the most hellish possible for Jinner. We'll, of course, talk more and more about Ziggs. There's still an outside chance it goes to the mid lane. I mean, it could be played there, but everyone knows about this trend of Ziggs bottom. It was started by Shifter of NALCS fame. Looking at the bans, interesting. So Maokai ban is immediately responded to with a Kled ban. So the only spanner that was thrown into the works was the Kled, you'd say, in game one, and already seeing some respect.
Yeah. So they do take that one off the board. Don't want to deal with it. It was a bit of a nuisance, I suppose, for SK Telecom. Not so much a massive threat, but something that they don't have to deal with any longer. And the Rumble will still be taken away from Huni.
So that's safe, blind pick, top laner, does well in tank matchups, does well in almost any matchup, famously has a cheap item build, and in his history, Huni's most played is actually the Rumble. His career, I believe it's 21-4 on Rumble, and of course Huni had undefeated seasons in general. Immortals even also did well in the regular season, so a lot of his win rates are high, but 25 games, 84%. It's very, very good.
Okay, wasn't sure if we were going to see that one go through yet again for Kuzan. Cassiopeia is taken off the board. The final ban of this draft and by SKT.
So what will they look for here? The trend has been mid lane first, but there could be an argument for just a tank top laner. Not many left. Poppy and Nautilus are the two that catch the eye. And if we do see, his most played this season solo queue was the Singe. We saw some great Singe play.
Locked in.
Now Singe does really well against Poppy and Nautilus. So does that mean we see a carry from Huni? Because sure, Singe does well against tanks, but there are a lot of top lane champions that can dominate a Singe.
Well, right now the hover is over the Nautilus. Could see him just go for that.
So Nautilus is the better of the two options between Poppy and the Singe, just because he has more AoE clear. Just walks up, E's, can also W minions. He has more options. He also has the hook to hook into turret.
Oh,
Katarina!
buddy, there we go. Made it through the draft. It will be picked up. So, man, what a treat. SKT.
Are they just going to pick a Riven or something crazy here? They could go for a full style comp because they need...
oh, man.
A tank makes more sense.
I don't think I've been more excited for a draft than this right now, Papa Smithy. Ziggs in the bottom lane for Bang, Katarina in mid for Faker. We've seen his highlight clips making it to the top of Reddit, his 1v2 kills in the mid lane. It will be Poppy picked up for Huni, so not going to see a carry coming out for him. There's already so much damage on the side of SKT. They need a tanky front line, so Huni, the onus is on him, and he takes up the mantle. But now, where do you go if you're Jin Air in the mid lane up against this Katarina?
Now, the comfort pick for Kuzan would be the Lissandra, who's still playing in solo queue, and it is locked in. Okay, so they go for the Lissandra. Very, very difficult to get the kill on Lissandra. Also a good lane to gank when it comes for the Lee Sin. To me, the big story here is Umti, who looked good in his first game as Lee Sin. We saw his decisive gank in the mid lane. He has good lanes to try and take advantage of. I really like Singed against Poppy. Can pressure him really hard, and he should be able to control the side of the jungle around the Singed lane. And then Katarina is another gankable target. So to me, Umti is the ultimate equalizer. If Peanut gets his first ganks off, if Peanut can hold down the Lee Sin, the pressure in these lanes is going to be insane for SKT. And it's a different side for Bang and Wolf, who famously have to play defensive because their rest of the team is Faker, is carries. Now they're on Zig Zyra, and they will be pushing inevitably, exhaustively in the bot lane. This is a really, really strong winning 2v2 lane for SKT.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how easily Jin Air was able to sweep through all of the turrets on the side of SK Telecom. Could just see that flipped entirely on its head now that the Ziggs has come through. I'm excited to see what kind of build path he goes for. There's been some differentiation with the Ziggs in the bottom. Usually, you know, the Morello and Omicron to start things off, but sometimes Luden, sometimes that Rabadon's Death Cap, sometimes even just straight for the Lich Bane, where you can really start knocking down those turrets. So I want to see where Bang is going to go with this build, but also how Kuzan is going to handle this mid lane, because Faker on Katarina, high mechanic champion, it's just perfect for him on paper. And I'm just excited to see how this is going to go down.
There's a lot to like here about the SK Telecom draft, but it is a risk. It's our first sighting of this Ziggs in competitive play. They are heavy on the magic damage. If they get a start, though, SKT are going to be just a treat to watch, because Faker and Katarina, I'm already smiling.
Oh yeah, it's going to be absolutely great, but let's just stop talking about it. Let's go ahead and get ready to get into the game. Game 2, SKT, 1-up over Jin Air. Want to close it out right here. Jin Air going to be looking to take us to a third and final game. Let's see if they can do it. Let's get on to the Rift. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, SKT, pulling out all the stops. Rengar for Peanut, Faker on Katarina, and the Ziggs for Bang. Quite the oppressive bottom lane, and confusingly enough, Jin Air still opted into that melee support of Tom Kench, so you have to expect that things are going to be rough for Snowflower and Teddy in the bottom side of the map. A bit of invasion coming through from SKT. They are spotted out by that ward, but think there's much that and Ixu can do about it. And they will just be backing off, so SKT going to get an early start, and going to be a little bit behind.
So the reason why this really works for SKT is because you know that SKT will have the pushing advantage in bot if they want it. So if you invade the top side, suddenly, unless Lee Sin starts on the enemy red buff, the lane will be pushed for SKT. You won't be able to get the bot lane support to come and help you, and you can't steal away the red buff. So you can't play vertically if you know for sure SKT are going to have a pushing advantage. And that's why it's smart for to just rush to the enemy red, because if you don't take it first buff, it's not going to be available.
Yeah. So he does adapt to the situation as best as possible. Now we'll be moving over towards those Krugs. See that Deadly Flourish not going to connect from Teddy. They will try to fire back and out-push the pushers. Bang. Gonna take him a little bit. Has to get a couple points into that queue before he's really going to be able to clear out these back waves.
Now, they could have actually won the pushing war here because it'd just be 2 ranged auto attackers and also AoE from the Ziggs, but because they know the enemy has information that the SKT jungler is topside, they have to respect the Lee Sin going for a level 2 or a level 3 gank bot, so they have to kind of just play a bit more defensively than you would expect at level 1. But as you say, a few more levels, a bit more information on the enemy jungler's pathing, and they'll be pushed up right under the turret of Jin Air.
Yeah, but even up underneath that turret, Bang, gonna be fine to last hit, has that short fuse passive to really get those big hits in, so he'll be all right for the time being. Meanwhile, some trades up in top. Ixu gets a toss on Huni. Goes quite low. Already has chugged up a lot of those charges in the refillable potion. Starting off with the Dark Seal, I think we know exactly where that build's going to go.
Yeah, it's been crowned the Dank Seal build because you don't build one of them, Achilleos. They actually don't have a unique passive. So given that a lot of Singed power is from regeneration early, something like Corrupting Potion, double, triple Dark Seal has become the standard because you get that ult, suddenly you have those extra mana regen, extra health regen, and every Dark Seal gives you 25% bonus regeneration, suddenly 75% on what is a very high base number from the ult, and it doesn't matter how much harass you're taking, you're going to regen through it.
Yeah. You can see Ixu already has gone back, burned out the teleport to get back into the lane so he can keep inching ahead in the CS, but double Dark Seal is the start. We'll see if he wants to go all the way for the third one, or if he'll start opting into some other build items. Needs to connect onto Teddy, who's quite low. 2 hours there from Snowflower to keep him alive, but otherwise, not too much heavy trading in the bottom side of the map.
I welcome this Singed meta that may be coming through, the Singed Overlords from Korea.
When's the last time we really had a Singed meta?
It was Season 2.
I was going to say, it's been quite some time.
One of the most famous Singed of all time is Shy, who, of course, is on the bench for the Rocksiders. We didn't see him yesterday. We also have Flame, who played some Singed in his day. But the reason why he's there is that standard lanes suddenly Singed, famously useless in a 1v2, but quite good in some standard lane matchups. And then when the tanks come in, if they don't have a lot of wave clear, the moment you can actually get through the turret, start proxying waves, guarantee vision and so much accountability of the enemy top laner, and then just go into a standard tank build, Singed becomes a very tempting pick.
See how it's going to play out here for Ixu. A very pokey performance on that Kled in game 1. Faker looking to try to stop the recall of Kuzan. Walks up a little bit, and what do you know? He is able to cancel that channel. Going to be suffering a bit in CS, as you would expect, being a basically melee champion with that Katarina.
Mid party.
Oh boy. It's the game of try to kill Faker, which will path forward, tries to get onto him. They drop the Frozen Tomb, and he gets tossed back. They find the first blood, goes over to Ixu. Nicely done, and now Peanut in a rough spot as Snowflower has wandered his way up to the top. Burns the flash, root does come out onto Snowflower. That's going to keep Peanut alive, and the Sonic Wave barely not going to connect. But nicely done. Take 3 people to roam down to mid. They come up with the first blood.
Yeah, the communication there, I guess, wasn't on point from SKT, or Faker just disrespected with his positioning. Could have taken Cleanse, but in general it feels like to lane the Katarina effectively, and obviously to get that first reset, you often itemize you often take the Ignite and help him in that scenario. Keeps his flash, so at least the wraparound ganks won't be as strong, but First Blood Jin Air, good start for that.
Yep. Be kicking things off quite nicely. especially with that CS lead that is really growing for Kuzan now, 52-33. Faker will pick up a good amount here.
But he's forced into a really rough itemization also. He rushes the Merc Treads so that he doesn't have a repeat where, because of the longer CC duration, Singe could just ghost in and get the flip. Negatron would almost always be the start into finishing up the Gunblade, but feels like need to stop that duration of the first CC. So probably a pretty smart heads-up choice, but it's a lot of gold to spend. 1,200 gold instead of just the 720 for the Negatron means that the damage is just going to be that much more delayed from Faker.
Yeah, so likely just going to be sitting back, trying to farm him as much as possible. And oh boy, Peanut, he gets found out. Humti jumping in, takes him out quite swiftly with a Dragon's Rage.
Humti's got something about him. He's got some swagger, Achilles.
Yeah, when it shows, and definitely showed it right there. Bang going low, Teddy stuck on top of that minefield.
Looking at the experience, only half experience to level 6 for Ziggs, so wasn't able to just clear the backline and kill him with ultimate. It's just not done, just getting in some really aggressive wards, and this is what happens in Poppy versus Singed. Singed clears the wave, Poppy's under turret, and Singed can go wherever he wants on the map, and if your jungler's losing, Rengar just got solo killed by the enemy jungler, no one's there to stop that Singed from being accountable. And that lack of accountability might allow Jinair to just have one-way traffic in the early game.
Yeah, so far so good. 1,000 gold up, just 8 minutes in. SKT have not been able to find any advantageous trades, really. Ixu going in trying to...
That change wasn't even in there. That change was 2 years ago when they made it auto-laugh when you flip. Last time Singed was in the meta, more than 2 years ago.
Yep. But what a nice subtle change it is. But, I mean, you can see Ixu just runs up, clears the wave, immediately starts roaming down. He's getting vision inside the jungle of SKT. He's playing this really well.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think SKT should have gone all in, Achilles. They needed a carry in top as well to actually be able to take advantage of the Singed, because they've gone for a snowball mid laner in the Katarina that's a riskier choice, and then they go for Poppy to just lose lane against Singed. If it was someone who could have kill pressure on Singed, less of these variables would have to come together for SKT to get ahead. But actually going for the reliable tank in the late game has cost them in the early game pretty dearly.
So, who would... Well, I might have to hold that thought, actually. Wolf going to get locked down, flashes away from the Deadly Flourish, but that's going to be the Ring of Frost connecting from Kuzan, and they find both kills. Big bomb comes out from Bang, trying to find a kill. Umti jumping over the wall, getting away from the W, but Bang's able to finish him off with a Q and an auto attack. Making use of that short fuse passive. Looks like Kuzan might be able to wander his way out. Needs the blast going over the wall. And yeah, he will be suiciding inside the base of SK Telecom. So nice execute from him. And Jinair, a really good spot.
That's really well put together there from Jinair. Poppy was the first one to react, so multiple members had to die, but only one kill Creshper over. This is Kuzan on a champion he has always been strong on. He has always looked like a top Lissandra. And the reason why I especially liked it here is that he could take teleport, and suddenly now the overextended bot lane has to respect 2 teleports. Is it Singed? Is it Lissandra? Suddenly more risky for Ziggs and Zyra to play their game. And while it wasn't the teleport that secured that kill, the teleport's up for the next time the ult is available.
Yeah. Now, something I did want to ask you before that fight broke out was, I mean, you talk about Huni, you know, should have come in, should have played, you know, a more aggressive top laner. What would you have liked to have seen from him if he had picked a more carry-oriented style top laner?
It just needs to be something punishing. A lot of lanes lose early, like something like a Fiora. If you get ult, then you have a bit more. If you have Tiamat ult, even then, if Singed is far enough ahead, you won't be able to chase them down, so Fiora is an option. Something like a Riven just dominates Singed, but would have been all in on laning phase, and game goes even, you get outscaled. So I just feel that they're losing a lot from Singed having a lot of free mobility, and Rengar, sure, can get ahead. Sure, the respect is there for the power of this pick, but when Rengar starts to lose trades straight up to the Lee Sin, there's a couple of headaches here that SKT kind of have to work their way through before they can resume normal business.
Sure. Well, looks like we had a slight little issue inside the booth of our Jinair. I think it might have been an audio problem, but have that taken care of. Straight back into the game. Not going to waste any time. So 1,000 gold still in the lead. Is Jinair been maintaining that for about 3 minutes or so now. And they have since picked up a couple more kills. Turret damage hasn't been much of a factor for either side. Peanut jumps forward, gets onto Snowflower, lands the stun there, or the root rather, and Snowflower, he's going to have to flash out. You see Kuzan throwing that Glacial Path back over the wall, but Faker, he's going to go in, pops the Death Blossom, comes up with a kill, Death Lotus rather, and they will take him down. 2 kills picked up as Peanut is able to finish off Kuzan. He throws out the Sonic Wave, would be able to finish off Peanut perhaps, but it's a little bit too risky. Now it's going to be that curtain call coming through. Wolf having to body block these last couple shots. Is able to do so. No bullet bending coming up for Teddy. Gets popped into the minefield. There we go. Flashes away. Will keep himself alive for now. Deadly Flourish to just slow up Bang. But nicely played by Teddy to keep himself alive. But SKT, they're able to pick up 2 more kills.
Yeah, the 4v4 actually worked really well for SKT. Faker invested a lot. Didn't have to ignite. Got the first kill. Suddenly everyone from Jinair has to run away. I thought Jinair had done just enough to get away. Specifically Kuzan, Glacial Path onto an invisible Rengar, then escaping. But first kill comes out. 2 kills back for SKT. And now we're all even. In fact, SKT just slightly ahead.
Yeah, Death Lotus, not Death Blossom. That was my game I was casting last night. Have to make that
Wait,
distinction.
which Riot Games title is that, sorry?
It's Riot Game.
Oh, okay. Mechs versus Minions, is that the one?
We'll see. There's got to be another game on the horizon, so I'm excited to see what that might be. Who knows when that'll happen, though. But for now, we have some good old League of Legends.
Just to be clear, we have no inside information.
Oh,
on
have
that.
no
You're not being clever. You're just being a play-by-play caster. You don't know.
No. I'm just saying it's bound.
I don't want to get any messages from Riot Games,
right,
Achilles.
Sure. I think that it will happen. I have no clue.
I'll just stick with the last part of that conversation.
All right. Anyway. Jinair slipping up a little bit now. The gold made even by SKT after that quite nice play. Snowflower, he's going to get rooted up. They want to go in. Peanut jumping in. Great health. He does come through. Snowflower alive for the time being, but Peanut is able to finish him off. Bang, running for his life. Jukes out on the Deadly Flourish. The root comes through. Note. Bang, he doesn't go down, and they pick up the kill. A double kill for Peanut. Throws out the ultimate to clear out the wave. Can they get a push on the tower? We'll have to wait and see, but my God, Bang played that to a T.
And just Snowflower can't get down any wards to actually get benefit out of Kuzan's teleport. He had to run down because there wasn't a ward that was in a really good spot to be able to react. Snowflower goes down. This game hasn't entirely planned out like we expected, but SKT wrestling back momentum, and even with Singed having a fun old time in top, Poppy's keeping up in CS. Singed hasn't been able to roam to mid and make the kind of plays he did in the early game. Suddenly, breathing room for SKT.
Oh, for sure. 1 kill on to Bang there, 1-0-2. And still slightly down in CS, but I think it's going to turn around for him. Interesting that he's going for the Tear of the Goddess on Ziggs. Haven't seen a whole lot of that in the Ziggs bottom builds.
When Lost Chapter isn't enough mana regen for you, you need a Tear apparently. You're right, that is a new adaptation. I noticed it as well. It seemed extra risky just because they were losing the early game and they're not buying early power.
Uh-oh, Peanut.
This is risky for Peanut.
Oh, boy. Now he's going to get locked down. Frozen Tombs comes out. Not going to be able to live.
He even had the...
will finish him off. Faker, he goes for it. Throws out the Death Lotus. Gets a lot of damage on the Oopsie. Falls him over the wall with the Blast Cone. The Ignite is ticking. Throws out the Bouncing Blade. Finishes him off. Nicely played by Faker. And now the roam down from Huni. Wolf joining the squad. They take down Kuzan, and things are just starting to unravel ever so steadily for Jinair.
And you can instantly see how the experience for Faker has put into benefit. Bang in the bot lane, though.
Oh, yeah, he's going to knock him back with the Satchel Charge, throws out the ultimate, flashes to the other side, and here comes Huni, knocks 2 up with the Keeper's Verdict. Devour coming through from Snowflower onto Ixu, but Wolf is on the roam down. Going to try to lock them up with roots, flashes forward, finds Ixu, the exhaust comes out, throws out a massive ultimate, will pop him up, stun into the wall on Teddy by Huni. Faker coming around the backside. Can he get the tumble? No, he won't. The kill goes over to Bang, but that's 3 more picked up for SKT. Plus the first brick gold coming through. They have blown this game wide open in a matter of minutes.
Jinair had the lid on the SKT Chaos in the early game, but 1 Rengar ult into a second. Suddenly, Chaos reigns supreme. Faker's able to walk down, and still nowhere for Lissandra to really become involved in this fight, and that's really costing Jinair Green Wings.
I mean, fantastic response by Huni as well, immediately channeling the teleport when they saw that Abyssal Voyage.
To Lissandra's credit, she was dead this time.
Sure.
She had been picked off, but Faker very smart in his roam, coming around the back. You just can't push up lanes when your mid laner with teleport is dead. Ixu's able to get there, but doesn't have any impact. There goes the bot lane turret, and now the Ziggs bot cancer spreads to mid lane.
We'll see how quickly he can knock down this turret. Kuzan does have some pretty reliable wave clears, so might be a bit more difficult to get in underneath of that one.
Reliable is true, but it's because it takes 2Q that's actually quite delayed wave clear. We don't have a Victor that just instant kills the backline. It takes a bit of time for that Lissandra as Peanut goes again, but this time Tahm Kench does his job.
Yeah, he's ready to keep his AD carry alive, so Peanut won't even be getting any damage in onto Teddy. He'll make it out safely, and we'll just have to wait a little bit longer for Peanut to get that cooldown back up and try again.
There was so much breathing room for Janair early. Those 2 early kills, it was 2-0 at one point, but Faker forced into Merc Treads. Suddenly, he's ahead of the build curve. Even got some stacks on his Dark Seal.
Yeah, it's up to 8 right now. Gunblade was completed, has the Fiendish Codex coming through. See where he wants to go with that one. If he wants to go straight for a Zhonya's Hourglass. Change things up a little bit.
A lot of the power from that newly reworked Katarina is in the passive. Every time you catch one of those daggers, you do the AoE that used to be the W. And the fact that as it goes on, I believe level 16, it's 100% AD and AP. It's funny that the ratios there, actually the kick in the late game, is where a lot of the power from the Katarina is. And so late game damage is going to be certainly fearsome from Faker. Should also talk about the Ziggs bot that we've touched on lightly. It is a very common pick. It does have a high win rate, but it's kind of a symptom of both standard lanes and how the meta is right now. AD carry itemization has been much maligned. A lot of people talk about the power level of AD carries. You think about what AD carry is supposed to do: push waves, and it's kill turrets. And guess what? Ziggs pushes waves damn fast. He kills turrets, in fact, executes them. So you win that turret war. So if there's any sort of 3 people pushing top, 3 pushing bot, Ziggs is always going to win that trade. And then, sure, in the late game, you don't have as much physical auto attack damage, but how often do we see these AD carries get to 4 or 5 items? Not much in the current meta. So Lichbane Ziggs suddenly does everything you need from an AD carry and has a stronger laning phase than most.
Yeah. And you can see the Lich Bane is going to be the next item coming through, or at least that Sheen is picked up for him. So Bang going to be looking to get a kill onto this mid-tier 1 tower. Hasn't gotten too much alone time. I think it's down to about half HP. So if you could get a short fuse hit in with that Sheen, we'll knock it very close into that execute range from the Satchel Charge.
It's good that you mentioned the Satchel Charge execute range. People talk about Ziggs bot and they're like, wait, this change has been in there for quite a long time. Why are people only really noticing it now? The other freedom you have in bot lane is that you don't necessarily need to max E second. You can max the Satchel second and have that higher threshold. We moused over Bang a second ago. It actually feels like he's going very much for the mid lane build. He has tier. He's actually maxing E second, I believe, which is atypical for Ziggs mid. But you can get that threshold higher by maxing W second. And when you have someone like a Zyra to help you push, there isn't that same need to have the 5 points in the minefield at level 12 or 13.
See, we'll be just clearing out the wave. Still can't push up comfortably. Didn't really know where was. Now shows himself in mid. But looks like it's just going to be Bang sticking around for a while. Hooney's been handling this top lane fairly well, even in CS. So has really kind of put a halt to the clear and roam that Ixu was showing off in the beginning of the game, getting that first kill on Faker, getting that vision in the jungle of SK Telecom. Hasn't really had that freedom.
Ziggs trying to fish for something here.
Faker juice back. Teddy not going to get rooted up. Taking that much damage. Curveball's opened up, and here comes the rest of Jinair. Root does land on the teleport coming through from Rudy right into the thick of things. Ixu getting locked up, and Bang finds the first kill. He will go down, throws out the bomb, only gets a little bit of damage on the Snowflower. Umti comes up with a double kill, exits down through the jungle of SK Telecom, and I think they just have to peel back. Several members of Jinair are low, but without Bang, without Wolf, It's going to be risky. Huni, he's willing to take that risk. Keeper's verdict not going to connect, but Faker goes
That's
for it,
one.
finds a kill, takes out the Jin. Can he find a kill into Umti? Jumps back over the wall with a shun bow, keeps himself alive for now. Snowflower now in a really rough spot, pops the shield, but it's just not going to be enough. The bouncing blade from Faker will pick up yet another one, a near ace for SK Telecom over Jin Air, 14-8 on the board, and you have to think that the turret's going to be going down as well.
Faker's first ever competitive game on Katarina didn't start off the best, got first blooded, but suddenly those kills come a-rolling, Achilleos.
Oh.
Jin Air going to try and recommit here.
They're not done yet, but 3 members are still dead. Ixu coming in, a bit overzealous by him. Kuzan was there to back him up, but didn't even have the Frozen Tomb. So burns out the teleport, and that's just going to give an earlier advantage over to Huni.
Yeah, not sure about the shot call there. They didn't have the damage to realistically take someone down. We're going to see the replay. Given where the game was at, this went pretty well for Jin Air. Ixu sidesteps the route, able to get in the back line. They kill Bang early. It's a 1-for-1 with Singed. And then a second kill goes down. You're like, all right, Jin Air have got this. Important thing to note is that Teddy, full health, free hitting, doing just fine. At this point, Jin Air have won the fight. It's SKT who make the smart play. Teddy stands next to a wall, gets slammed in, gets chunked out, and Faker, even without ult, has enough damage to take him down.
This was
Teddy alive
gorgeous.
and Teddy dead. That's the difference in a won and lost team fight for Jin Air Green Wings. And very opportunistic from Huni, but he was the real star of that fight.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we could very well see Huni coming up with yet another MVP. Bang, though, all by himself in the top lane, throws out the bomb. He's just going to tickle these members of Jin Air, and he will go down quite swiftly. Teddy able to find the kill, so just a little bit of overextension there
Not really
from
sure
Bang.
how he didn't catch any of the Jin Air members, given all the wards are on the map, but
I don't really know.
yeah.
I mean, the Abyssal Voyage definitely does help out,
Sure.
but still, odd positioning from Bang, and he does pay for it. But that's just a consolation prize after that last fight, taking down the Ziggs. It'll elongate the lifespan of that turret in the top lane, but Faker is going to start knocking down the rest of its HP. Might actually be able to take it. Nope. Arrival of Teddy, and the mystery of wondering where the rest of Jin Air was is enough to dissuade him.
They do have some very advanced vision. They actually have a pink sticking right next to the inner turret of Jin Air. So
Whoa, that's not a pink anymore.
that's true. A control ward, my apologies. I see a ward that's not a green ward, which also I guess doesn't exist either. We're stealth and control now. We sound like expansion packs for a board game.
Yeah.
SKT just pushing out. Their Baron speed is certainly on the lower end compared to some of the previous team comps we've seen.
This
Don't
could
have a
be-
Kha'Zix this time.
I mean, Riot does have a board game. Those could be the expansion packs for that.
There's ideas. I'm
Okay,
giving-
I can call them Riot games.
Okay.
All right. I was being unfair. Faker going in as the Death Lotus gets Teddy down to about half HP, dodges out on the Sonic Wave and the Deadly Flourish. He's going to get caught by those Kurt Call shots, but Teddy, he's low. Here comes Peanut in underneath the turret. Doesn't matter if he's exhausted, still comes up with a kill. The turret is going to go down. Bang finishes that one off quite swiftly. Meanwhile, Huni splitting in the bot, going to be looking for a tier 2.
Yeah, the moment that Ixu has to become accountable to the rest of his team is when you know that things are kind of quickly falling apart for Jin Air. Does do very, very well in the side push, but for now, just able to pick up minion waves after already one of his members went down, as Huni gets free damage on the inner bot lane turret. Things unraveled so quickly for Jin Air. They had an even brighter start than they did in Game 1 in this game, but you give champions like Ziggs and Katarina an inch, and they take that mile.
Yep. And now things are looking pretty grim for them. 6.6 thousand ahead for SK Telecom. And it's just under 25 minutes. Baron not yet come into contention. We've only seen one Dragon go down as well, so really different from what we saw in that first game. Kuzan getting jumped on by Huni. It's a matter if she's a tank. She still does a heck of a lot of damage. That Poppy knocks down Lissandra to about half HP. So he'll have to hightail back up the lane and keep himself safe.
But map pressure exclusively on the side of SKT.
Yep. Oh, MT throws out the Dragon's Rage to try to knock Huni away. He's able to dash over on the Snowflower to keep himself alive, but he will no longer be able to contest around that Dragon. So that'll just be handed off to SK Telecom. They'll put a second one on the board. Oh, Bang! Recalling on top of a ward, maybe shopping, wasn't really paying attention there. Gets sniped out by the Ziggs.
Power of deep vision, Achilles. Gets you those kills, bang.
Look at that stone.
Nonchalant, the frustration
Stone cold killer.
On the side of
Look at this tower, just getting shredded down. Already has a satchel charge ready to go. One more hit, pops it, and the turret disappears.
And the lane assignment is so perfect for SKT because no longer does Poppy have to worry about this Singed.
Nope.
Instead, do you know what you have in the top Achilles? You have a Katarina trading farm with a Singed. And that is a happy time for SKT.
It's a bad place to be in if you're Jin Air, that's for damn sure. Curtain call opened up. They're going to be trading bullets. Looks like Peanut might take the last one, or whoop, there we go. Hits him for just a paltry 409. So not going to be able to come up with too much. They do hold on to that tier 2 tower in bot, but they are just bleeding resources all over the map.
And those resources are going to the ideal recipients. We always talk about when, say, an early game AD carry is trading farm with a Vayne. You're like, well, Vayne is going to get more out of this gold he's picking up. Look in the top lane. Katarina going to put the finishing touches on a Void Staff, on the Death Cap, on whatever the next pickup is. And sure, Singed might get an extra 20, 30 MR, but the rest of the team is going to feel the brunt, and it's ideal to have this farm falling onto a no-teleport Katarina.
Yeah, I mean, 5-1-5, up just about 30 CS over Kuzan at this point. And, I mean, he was losing in CS really badly at the beginning of the game, and SKT, superior macro play coming through. Faker on Katarina. It's just all of the stars have aligned for them in this game at the moment. And it just seeming ever so unlikely that Jin Air will be able to do anything to turn this around.
And you know what the scariest thing is, Achilles? We learned that Faker is confident enough to blind pick Katarina. So suddenly...
It wasn't the first pick, but he still did blind pick it.
But the worry is that suddenly, do you have to dump a ban on Katarina too? Like, I mean, at some point, if you're on the red side, you really need some bonus bans, and I thought 5 would be enough, but another 5 might be all right.
Yeah. Rough life, and I mean, this was one of the things that we, as soon as we found out that the 10-ban system was coming in, that we said, you know what, SK Telecom, this is a team that could absolutely excel with this system. Faker having an immense champion pool, Peanut, very reliable regardless of what you put him on, and then Koma, of course, best coach in the world, proven time and time again, really. So this system suits them so well, and we're seeing that displayed right here. Granted, it's against Jin Air. This is, a middle-of-the-pack team, potentially in LCK. They have been impressing today so far, but we have to see how SK Telecom is going to fare going up against, Longshu Gaming, going up against Samsung Galaxy, KT Rolster, these big teams that everyone anticipates will be in the top 4, top 5 by the end of the season.
Well, the whispers from preseason is that SKT are the best, Achilles.
Man, what I mean, those whispers have been happening since, season 3.
Yeah, you say that, but there's
5.
been seasons where people like, these guys are looking better, or like SKT starting slowly.
I mean, that was actually summer last year, so
this was definitely
we have seen it from
this
them.
is definitely a time when you'd be like, okay, put in Huni and Peanut, they're really good, but who knows how it works 5v5. The word from Scrims is it worked pretty damn well. And we're seeing it on the Rift, and it looks pretty good here, too.
Yep. Well, that bomb not going to connect from Bang. Mixu has come in with the teleport. Spreading his way through. Doesn't really have a target to go for. Might just have to run back down the lane, get stunned to the wall. Huni up in the front line, going to be tanking up. Peanut, he goes in, tries to get the assassination of the Kuzan. Won't be able to find it. But Faker is able to finish off the Singed. Nicely done. Peanut makes it out with his life as well. Curtain call. Comes out from Teddy. Can he find anyone, though? Bang is perfectly comfortable to sit in the front line and take up the shots.
Looking for a flash ult.
Oh, that's going to be the root coming in into the stun. Snowflower is there for the Devour to keep the Jin alive. He barely escapes with his own life. So far, just 1 kill picked up, plus the tier 2 tower. SKT, how far do they want to push this? Looks like it's going to be right there. See, of course, not going to go in on that Sonic Wave, just dashes to the side. But SK Telecom, they got what they wanted, priority of the mid and top lane, and that's going to just make taking Baron even easier.
Yeah, they lose their bot lane turret to minions as well. Only Lissandra has any semblance of wave clear to really stop Ziggs from getting an auto attack with Lichbane, and 3 of those and a W, and it's probably goodbye turret. So the margins are pretty slim. Not telling you the fat has been trimmed here.
Oh boy, flash forward on the Snowflower. They take him out before he can use the Great Health Shield. And Bang picks up yet another one, 6, 2, and 5 on the Ziggs. Been having a pretty good performance for Ziggs' debut in the bottom lane in LCK. And bomb thrown out. Teddy loses about half of his HP. He'll be all right, however. Moody coming over the wall, stuns in onto Umti. Can they take him out? Tries to get through the base gate, but just can't do it. Hooney finishes him off. And SKT, they sweep through the jungle, get rid of pretty much all of the vision of Jin Air. But they say, screw it, let's not even go for the Baron. Let's come straight down the mid lane. Try to take out Ixu.
Feeling the full brunt of the gold lead. It's 12,000 gold lead for SKT. They don't really have Baron damage, but just the extra gold they have and a bit of time, they'll be able to take it down. Can always turn around for a pick.
And Jin Air, they have to know that this is happening, but they don't have a smite available for another 10 seconds on the recall. And then MT would still have to run his way over. Teddy trying to get the steal desperately with some of these shots, or at least whittle down SKT, but to no avail. Peanut smites it out, goes over to them, and you have to expect it. That was the final tool that SKT needed to finish off Jin Air and win in this nice 2-0.
Yeah, now Poppy just comfortably beats Singe in the 1v1 in the side lanes. The minions just can't be gassed down by the Singe anywhere near as easily. Just a bonus Ocean Drake on the top. Everything looking great for SK Telecom T1.
Yep, and Ixu, even with a Zerat portal, is just not nearly annoying enough to dissuade SK Telecom from continuing their onslaught. You can see waves pretty much pushed up in every lane. Top gonna have to be moved a little bit, but for now SK Telecom gonna put their focus on the bottom lane. Wolf did go back to base, so he won't be able to rejoin for a little bit of time, but SKT is just gonna use this to try to poke out where they can. Maybe get some hits in onto the turret with Bang if he can walk up.
I mean, Ziggs just throws down. Yes. Ziggs just throws down the ultimate.
The turret's at 30%.
Katarina can posture forward. Even if the turret was being better defended, you just throw down an ult and suddenly everyone's in range of Katarina, so...
Goodbye.
Burst and a resetting assassin is always best friends forever.
That is just filthy damage. Who's on? Is he looking for a TP spot? Looks like he might be.
Oh, Faker goes home.
Just sitting inside the base. Peanut, he's going to get kicked in. Flashes away, but it's not enough. Gets taken down. Teddy finds the kill. Bang not going to get rooted by the deadly flourish. No one had touched him before that moment. So he'll be all right. Fourth and final shot comes in. Not going to connect. And now Kuzan has come in with the teleport. Exhaust comes down immediately onto him. Bang flashing over the wall, but it's not enough. Is able to actually pick up the kill in the end to get rid of the Lysandra. But SKT losing several members, 3 going down. Hooney trying to finish off Ixu as best as he can. Will be able to do so in the end. Baker not jumping over the wall. The chase onto Umti. And Hooney, he's just going to keep the wave moving. Try to be as much of a nuisance as possible. Pretty unkillable on the Poppy at the moment. But a little bit of sloppiness there from SKT. Maybe some just disjointed communication as Faker went with the recall.
I mean, Faker basically recalled in vision as there were still pick tools available for Jin Air, so definitely something that you expect to be ironed out. There's not going to be much on the VOD that Como and Rapidstyle have to walk through, but that was certainly atypical. Exactly, it's pretty straightforward. Just don't do that. But
yep. Oh, Faker has to pop the Zonia Sonic Wave. Won't connect because of it. He gets devoured by Snowflower. Gets popped by Teddy. Taking him out with that shot. Now Hooney, far forward, gonna have to run out here. Nice deny on the resonating strike. Looks like he might be okay. No, the flash forward Snowflower. They really want to kill him, or at least get rid of that Guardian Angel. Hooney almost takes out Umti, and now here comes Peanut. A telltale sign as you hear the Rengar go into the ultimate. Gets a little bit of damage in, a smattering of it, but can't find a kill. But it's enough to keep Hooney alive to make sure he doesn't lose that Guardian Angel.
If we know, probably people will learn probably at this point not to recall on wards, so no assassination from Bang that time. He's going to go and pick up blue buff. Pretty elegant with Katarina in mid. Obviously no big need for the blue buff. Means that for once Faker is denied blue by his own team.
I'm sure if he had asked for it, they would still give it to him.
That's true. They gave him Knight's Vow. Blue buff seems like just a slam dunk there.
Yeah. And working our way back towards that. Hooney coming in, has that Aegis ready to go. Might be ready to complete in just a little bit more time. Teddy popping the Ghost Blade just to run back into the base. But, yeah, Jin Air, really rough spot to be in. SKT have played these last couple of fights, these skirmishes, a little sloppily, but Jin Air just hasn't been able to capitalize. They haven't been able to take any objectives. There's no dragons for them. There's no turrets taken on the map. So even if Jin Air could get an ace, 35 minutes, death timers are fairly long. It's not like they can win the game off of that.
There'll be a couple of aces, and it's worth pointing out that it's sloppiness in terms of disrespect rather than necessarily mechanics or 5v5 concerns.
Yeah.
In a true 5v5, they should win out, and this is going to be pretty close to one.
Yep. This big knock-up with the keeper's verdict. Bomb from Bang will get a little bit of damage in. He's going to finish off that turret. Now the inhibitor will be in their eyes. Ixu getting stunned into the wall. Snowflower comes in with a devour to keep him alive. Kuzan has to dash back with the glacial path. Current calls opened up. Faker and Wolf are both low. If they get hit by these shots, they will go down. Fourth and final shot comes through. Oh, barely outraged by Faker. So will not fall. The inhibitor goes down, and SKT continue to bleed Jin Air dry. Ixu, even to the back line with a teleport, has to think better of that one. Pops the Righteous Glory.
He's just being annoying.
And yeah, it might be being annoying to his own teammates at this point. Why did you teleport? He's going to get rooted, stunned into the wall. Popped up into the air by the Zyra, and it looks like he's going to go down. So Ixu trying to be a nuisance, but it's just causing harm to Jin Air in the end.
Always a fine line between proxying a singed and just feeding. Ixu had some pretty good moves in the early game, but maybe the ladder is creeping in a little bit here. If you could just waste time and get out, then sure, you buy time for Kuzan and the others to wave clear, but when your front line is dead, goodbye another turret.
Oh boy. Oh, nice devour just in time by Snowflower. Stop that. Execute coming through by Bang, but that's all three inhibitors dead. And let's take a look at how quickly Bang will be able to knock down these inhib turrets if he can just get that auto attack in. Hasn't walked up to it yet, waiting for that mid lane wave to crash. But SKT, this is looking like the end of the series for them. Third call opened up, Kuzan goes in, locks down, Bang, will he go down? Big shield coming out from that lock-in. Gets popped, one more hit, will do it. Teddy is able to finish him off with that fourth and final front shot. Faker going into the Death Lotus, doesn't get a whole lot done. Whittles down a couple members, but still not enough.
Yeah, there's the helicopter just to end things off, but see, you were talking about Ziggs reaching for that auto attack. Doesn't have the longest auto attack range. Good pick options by Jin Air, take him out, so
Needs
breathing
a rapid
run.
fire cannon.
I mean, honestly, there are worse 6 items in that kind of a situation, but once again, a bit of a reprieve for Jin Air, but probably not going to change the texture of the game at all.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Now 3 dragons here for SK Telecom. The Elder Drake spawn. Baron getting ready to come up in just 5 seconds. Jin Air, they're going to start this one, but SKT, they're waiting in the wings. This is the Hail Mary play coming through from them. Peanut jumping onto Kuzan, almost takes him out. He holds onto the Frozen Tomb. Using some restraint there. Huni going into the pit. Elder Drake down to about half HP. Bang now coming up. Can he get in range to at least throw out a bomb? Maybe get some damage onto the members of Jin Air. You can see Kuzan going with the recall. Has the TP available. Who is going to end up with this Elder Drake? Looks like it might be SKT if they don't want to just push in and try to come up with a kill. Teddy gets popped up, gets taken out. Double kill coming through for Peanut. The bomb from Bang going to go wide as everybody's already dead. The Elder Dragon taken out. And SK Telecom, they are set to win this game. Nexus turrets almost gone. The last one barely standing.
Yeah, Jin Air didn't have anywhere good to fight. They tried to fight an Elder Drake. Now their base being completely crushed. Last turret's going to fall soon, and maybe some members as well.
Yep, Faker just going to pad the KDA, takes out Snowflower. The Nexus is exposed. They will work their way through them, and there we have it. It's Swift 2-0. Oh, not so Swift 2-0 coming through for SKT, rather. 40 minutes and 45 for both games, but a bit of a slaughter in the second one. But still, Jin Air showing some prowess in the beginning of the game, but they let it slip through their fingers. If they had played that way against a lesser team than SKT, they very well could walk away with a win. But SKT, doesn't matter what members are on this team, seems like they will always be dominant as long as Faker's there.
And that's kind of the takeaway, Achilleos. There's a best case scenario and a worst case scenario for SKT, both from this game. The best case scenario is for the fans. SKT, sure, maybe Peanut and Faker need to work on a bit of synergy, when to go in, when to go out, but Huni understands his role. SKT's champion pools have never looked more impressive. 5 bans looked about 5 too short of actually being able to crimp some styles, because you ban the must-ban champions on red, suddenly Ziggs gets through, suddenly Katarina gets through, and they'll blind pick these champions. They'll take some risks, and they can play the meta and also famously have those really high-tier extended champion pools. And now, if you're an opponent of SK Telecom, you realize that, man, they are going to be an uphill battle for anyone to take down.
I mean, you have to imagine that all of the other teams are sitting at home in their team houses watching this series right now, and you know that they've run draft simulations to try to figure out, like, oh, I wonder what Coma's going to do, and now they have to go, crap, we have to ban Katarina.
Maokai, Katarina, Ziggs, these are all extra champions that clearly SKT can play at a higher level than you would have necessarily expected. We knew Faker could pick Katarina, but if it's a blind pick, suddenly a different story. So,
I mean, Kuzan got his desired counter pick. I mean, Lissandra, not the most entrenched in the meta at the moment, but something that he's very familiar with. And, got that first blood coming through for the side of Jennair. Things were looking good, but just to start snowballing ever so steadily, and there's just no way to stop Faker on that Katarina. He had some wonderful plays. The disconnect in communication with his recall, a bit comedic, but still, SK Telecom. They come out the gate swinging here, the first day of LCK, and they are just looking monstrous.
Yeah, Jennair, again, a lot to be happy about. I thought Umti looked very good. I thought he was the best player on the side of Jennair.
Some shining moments. Want to see how deep his champion pool can go, as we only got to see the Lee Sin from him, but we'll take a look at who our MVP from Game 2 is.
Who's this guy?
And it's Faker. Of course, 56% kill contribution. That'll be his first MVP. A great way to kick off the season for both he and Huni. And a 7.0 KDA, 8-2-5, or 8-2-6 rather. I'm a little bit blind on that Katarina.
It didn't start off well, but we've all played solo queue. We know how the old story goes. Any kills come in, and the cascading effect from there is impressive. I thought Snowflower would get out of this one, but Faker's super committed. He got a couple of kills from it, and from there, Faker ran away with the game. The chaos that was kind of absent in the early game where Jennair got that first kill. We saw the Lee Sin solo kill Rengar, and we're like, okay, maybe Jennair can stop the snowball. Faker was so smart here, advancing towards the side of the blast cone to join Umti. Knew his damage output, put out the ignite. Faker always a couple of steps ahead. I think it was Mad Life at All-Star who said that Faker would celebrate a kill 5 seconds before he actually got the kill credit because he saw the mistake and he knew how the next 5 seconds would play out. And guess what? There's playing chess with some champions, and there's being able to play chess with Katarina, because if you see fights 5 seconds ahead as Katarina, everyone dies.
I mean, at that point, you're just seeing the world in slow motion. You know exactly what's going to happen, how things are going to play out. Faker, of course, just showing that he is completely on a whole other level compared to everybody else, as we have known for years and years, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon.
And Peanut. No slouch either. Sure, he might have died early, but it's the use of the ultimate, just like Twisted Fate when you have these really map-impacting ultimates. Every single ult he used, he got a kill, he got an assist. It was a big part in the game, so again, things to fix, but on the whole, very impressive from SKT T1.
Yeah, well, with that, we're going to throw over to Joel for translation so we can hear from our first 2 MVPs here at OGN. Joel, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your interview translations, and we are here with SKT